Alrighty, everybody, welcome on into the Central Committee with your host, Mike from PA. We are live once again. Welcome on in. Are you rested and rejuvenated? I know I am. I finally feel better. Holy shit. Holy shit. Do I feel good? I was really sick on Friday, and I tried to push through. Mistake. Mistake. What I did on Thursday was I was kind of feeling sick and I had a doctor's appointment anyway. So I went to the doctor's appointment, and while I was there, I was like, give me all the vaccines. So I got my tetanus booster. I got a COVID shot. I got, a few other things. And the next day I woke up and I was still sick. Like I took like 6 vials of blood. I did a whole bunch of shit. And the next day I had a splitting headache and I streamed anyway. Bad idea, because I was extremely in a bad mood from that. So sorry about that. I shouldn't have taken it out on you, chat. I should have just stayed in bed. I should have just said Friday is a fuck today. I'm just going to chill. So you guys got collateral damage. Sorry about that. I'm good. I turned my body into an experiment. I'm from Boulder and worried about what will happen to the Palestinian movement. The lib reaction is going to be brutal. I haven't looked into the Boulder stuff at all, Chad. So I'll be watching it with you. Got to be on that Sigma grind set. Honestly, it's so funny because I am the most Sigma grind set person. It's like in my actual life. It's like I try to maintain discipline. And I'm trying to constantly improve my discipline. The problem is when you're a streamer, everyone else around you is an absolute lazy piece of shit. Like legitimately a lazy piece of shit. If you have contempt for streamers, you should have more contempt for streamers. Okay? They are fucking subhuman. All right? They don't do anything. And if they do anything, they act like they're fucking knocked out. Like it's hard. The best analogy to a streamer is have you ever had a relative who was 85 and retired for 25 years, and if they go to the grocery store they have to take a week break afterward? That's what it is. That's what a streamer's like. They're like, I went to the grocery store this week, and it's like, wow, man, great job. So in that environment, being normal feels like you're a superhuman. So anyway, but sometimes you should take breaks, and I tend not to miss. I usually take less than 5 days off of a year that I have and I stream on Thanksgiving and shit. So other than the weekend, right? So that's probably bad. I should probably fix that. I should probably take days off when I'm sick. Did you see this lineup? Chris Hedges in person, Josh Elam, and Saikudo Night Rain, and Fidroz Sinwa in person Tuesday to discuss doing surgeries in Gaza. What a king. What a king. I need to reach out to Chris Hedges. I really do. I like Chris Hedges. Although I disagreed with him on the Bernie campaign and he was wrong. He was wrong. In 2015, he kind of poo-pooed the Bernie Sanders campaign and said it wasn't going to go anywhere, and he was dead wrong. And I feel like he should at least admit that. And American politics has significantly changed, and the left grew tremendously because of Bernie. And you know what else is causing the left to grow, by the way, in New York City right now? The Zohran campaign. So basically, if you're a person who's like, why do we even bother with this electoral shit, Mike? Go look at fucking New York City. You can literally see DSA blowing up in New York City because of Zohran. Because when you have somebody who is in everybody's face as a left winger, that grows the left. Because a lot of people don't even know that that's a possibility. Bad and Panada finally defeated Ryan Beard. Oh yeah, Ryan Beard. Oh, we're gonna talk about Ryan Beard. He said he was wrong about it after, but now he's wrong about the Green Party. Here's the thing about Chris Hedges. We have a hype train going on. Holy shit. Thank you everybody for subscribing. I appreciate it. We're currently We're currently at 6834 subs. So we'll go back to 6969 as our goal. Zohran is on Morning Joe today. Oh fuck yeah. Oh fuck yeah. Mike, are you gonna do anything with channel points? Yes. Oh my god, chat. I have come up with a new project. I'm finally going to I have developed this weekend a new project. And I think you guys are gonna love it. Something Denims and I are cooking up. I think we are currently in development of a new project. I think you guys are going to absolutely fucking love it. It will be political, but it will also be about a funnel for me and Denims. Is it a haircut? I might eventually get a haircut. I'm not sure when, but I might eventually get one, but I'm not really feeling it right now. To be fair, if you do daily mammoth 9-hour streams daily like Hassan, where you interact intensely with a massive chat, I could see that feel like a consumer service job that drains your social battery. Am I being too charitable? No. I mean, listen, I've always felt like, yes, if you're talking about Hassan, that's different. Hassan is not a typical streamer. A lot of these guys are not doing that. Like, who's a streamer? Who's a famous streamer? Okay, you guys say Northern Lion. Northern Lion. I don't know if I actually follow Northern Lion on Twitch. Maybe I should. Because whenever I see his clips... Okay, here's an example of what I'm talking about. Northern Lion, first of all, more popular than ever, based. Love to see it. 59 million hours watched. 826,000 followers. Okay, I don't follow him. That's actually crazy. Anyway, look at this, chat. Last week, he streamed 27 hours. Respectable. It looks like he streams 5 days a week. This is exactly... He usually starts stream at 10:57. This is an adult man. He streams 5 days a week like a job. I think when you're making content 5 hours a day is a pretty high level. Because you have to spend time before and after streams doing other shit. So you're really putting in a full work day. Let's talk about someone else. I don't know. S-Fond. Here's a famous streamer. Last week, he'd streamed 51 hours. Pretty good. 220 over the last 30 days. That's a lot. Seems like he hasn't really gained many followers in the last year. Oh no. Last like 11 months. This month he spiked. What was different about this month? What was he doing that was this month? Why the big spike in viewers? Kind of odd. DreamCon? That's a consistent 55 hours. Yeah, no, he's streaming every day. He streams every day. 6.2 days a week means you stream typically you stream at least 6 days a week, and one day, you know, one week a month you'd stream 7 days. You're only taking like 3 days off a month. I consider that to be too much. Oh yeah. Will Neff has left OTK. You know what? Can I just say, I think Will is a great streamer. I never really saw him as somebody who would be in an organization with somebody like Asmongold and Hectone. I always found it to be a bit of an odd fit because he's so talented and such a great streamer. So I consider this to be a good sign for more stuff to come. And I think about Will. Will is one of those people who not only is he talented, he's ambitious, but he's got that quiet ambition, the really dangerous type of ambition. The ambition doesn't need to be braggadocious, that keeps what they're doing close to their chest because of like the pride they have, the quiet pride they have. And those are the people that really fucking deliver. If you want somebody who I think is like somebody who could really take Twitch to the next level, it's Will. And not just as on-screen talent, but also as like somebody who produces the next great thing for Twitch. And I want to say that I have been a Will fan and supporter since the very, very, very beginning of his streaming career. Very beginning. We had a lot of good times over the years, especially in COVID times. So I'm excited for him. This is less about him leaving OTK for me and more about the tremendous potential that it gives for everyone else. So I'm excited for him to raise the bar on Twitch. The Freedom Flotilla boat is sailing toward Gaza. Well, Will delivers the best content when he's collabing. He makes everyone ever. I don't know, man. I don't know, dude. I love Will's collabs and I love the big productions, but I have to say, can I be honest about what my favorite Will Neff content is of all time? My favorite Will Neff and oh man, I don't know if I can find it. Did anyone? Okay, hold on.
Dude, I saw this and I needed my army. We're gonna compose a tweet at some point in the stream reaching. My coaching at times unethical. I'm euthanizing these kids.
We were pegging each other in the face before Coach Neff got there.
What the fuck just happened? Strict. That bitch just made a diving fucking catch and my kids are pegging each other in the fucking face! Some would even say cruel and unusual. Luann! Where am I clicking? Where am I?
You only feel two things playing for Coach Neff. Determination.
That was the greatest cut of all time.
Feel two things playing for Coach Neff. Determination.
Andy Frazier is the worst piece of shit kid I've ever known.
And fear.
Wake the fuck up! But I reached them. Get back, baby! Get out of the park!
He was abusive, aggressive. Pretty sure he was drunk more than a couple of times.
No one believed in these kids. And I'm not giving up on these goddamn kids.
He made us champions. And I'll never forget that. That's probably because of the trauma. My doctor says I have PTSD from that season.
Honestly, like, I would say it was funnier and better. Like, this is a good clip compilation and a great edit, but I want you to understand that it was funnier and better live. The context of it, like, when he would crash out, perfect comedic timing, he would deliver these pep talks. He would deliver these rants. Honestly, maybe it's because I played Little League growing up. And so I saw so many men crashing out over Little League games. And I was such a piece of shit Little League player. I was good at baseball. But when I say piece of shit, I mean, I would just bully the other team. So, like, for example, if I knew that the other team had some like player who was very worried about making, like they had an infielder who was not great on making plays on the bag, I would steal every single time. If I knew a catcher could make that throw to second, I would steal every single time. I would force the other Little League pitchers. Like, I played on base percentage baseball as a little leaguer. I was like fucking playing Moneyball as a little leaguer. So I would make the other team strike me out. Like, I would like only swing at meatballs and I would force them to strike me out. So I would just sit there and just sit back. And you know, it's Little League. They can't throw 3 strikes. They don't have command. So I would sit there. I would have, I think my batting average was like 800, you know? So, and I had like, I would average like 6 stolen bases a game. I would steal home. I'd get walked and I'd steal 3 bases. Like, I was such an asshole. In my Little League, I don't know about now, but you could steal after the ball was pitched. So you weren't allowed to steal until the ball was on the way. Okay? That was the rule in my Little League. I don't know if it's different now, but it was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Like, I think I scored the most runs in my entire league. I still have my parents have it somewhere in their house, but I had like most runs scored in the entire league because of the amount of times I stole home. It was so bad. And I was a third baseman. I was a third baseman or a center fielder, depending upon the team. That's where I usually played. Oh, man. And let me tell you, is there a strategic counter to stealing? Yes, throwing me out. See, the thing is, like, the reason why I was so ruthless is I knew that making a play is a lot more stressful than, oh, wow, okay, you got out. right? So forcing the team to constantly be on edge would cause their entire team to be like tense. And so you'd win the mind game right there, and they would fuck up more. You have to make the catcher catch the ball from the plate, stand up, deliver the throw to the base, and actually have the guy catch it and then tag you. Like, good fucking luck. It was amazing. Throwing you out like eject you from the game? No, I mean the catcher throws the ball to the other player and they tag you, therefore rendering you out. I assume you guys know the rules of baseball.
This part. Cruel and unusual. Luann! Where am I clicking? Where am I?
You only feel two things playing for Coach Neff.
Fires it over, throws it over, the throw. 60 seconds. His ability to hula hoop like
This is my all-time favorite Will Neff content, is Backyard Baseball. Like, it had nothing to do with OTK. It's just him playing a really obscure retro game, and he would pick the worst players in the entire game, because you like make your own team. So he'd pick like the bottom players, the worst players, play it on high difficulty, and you know, it was just so funny to watch someone play Dark Souls version Backyard Baseball. It was fucking hilarious, dude. And he was trying really hard. So I just loved it. So this was my all-time favorite OTK or Will Neff content.
champ. His record is 43 minutes without stopping. You can't second guess the manager going with this girl.
You can't second guess the manager going with this girl. Up to the plate strides Pablo Sanchez. What's up, Oxy? Dude, I would be a perfect grown-up Vinny the Gooch. I mean, like, look at me. This is it. Here we are again for a little backyard baseball. I've been in this backyard for the last 30 years.
Amazing stuff. All right, I made that my title and then had nothing more to say. Anyway, Will has left OTK. Fucking love to see it. I heard, yeah, I saw the, somebody's like, Mike, did you see the backyard baseball tweet? Did you link it? Because I replied to it. And I was like, just so you understand how good the Will Neff content was. Not only did I have outstanding enjoyment of the content, I had a literal gut-busting laugh. I think it was during a crash out. I think it was, he lost the game in the 9th inning or something, and it was like in the playoffs. And he had some sort of crash out, or the 6th inning, or whatever the fucking last inning is in backyard baseball. Closing the gap between him and Cuomo, asked if he's too far left. Is he supportive of the police and an increasing budget for anti-hate crime? Don't you love that MSNBC is basically just Fox News now? Jesus Christ, man. It's just so fucking obnoxious, man. It's been that way for a long time, but I really, God, can you imagine if Morning Joe got canceled? How awesome that would be. It's like Fox News, but without like leggy blondes. Like that's MSNBC is Fox News without leggy blondes. That's it. That's really it. Like I understand why people would rather watch rather watch Fox News. Like I get it.
State mayoral Democratic primary will be held this Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly.
9 candidates in the crowded field have qualified to take the stage, including former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is looking to make his political comeback in this race. Joining us now, New York City Assemblyman and one of the candidates for New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani. Assemblyman, thank you so much for being here this morning. Your candidacy has...
The MSNBC blondes are Andrea Mitchell and Mika Brzezinski. Yeah, they were real lookers back in 1975.
Truly surged. It is a crowded field, as just noted. For a few months now, you've been pretty firmly lodged in second place, a gap that was once about 30 to 40.
I went to his rally in Bed-Stuy. So how did that feel, Alyssa? Did you feel emotions? Did you feel emotions? Did you think we're going to make it? Did you get a euphoric feeling of solidarity, or are you too much of a cynic? Girl who is going to be okay. Yeah, definitely. Matt Miller says he always knew Israel was committing war crimes, but he was just following orders. I had a tickle of hope. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. He didn't win yet, right? He didn't win yet. Will you be reacting to the Tectone documentary? Is it good? I retweeted it because I wanted to promote it, but I haven't watched it yet. And the thing is, like, again, with very small channels, if I don't know who they are, I don't like to just watch them unvetted. You know what I mean?
Points behind Cuomo, now down to about 9 or 10. So still, a deficit, but smaller than it was. But as voters start to get to know you, they know Andrew Cuomo. What's your pitch?
I tell them what they already know, which is that we live in the most expensive city in the United States of America. And it's a city that used to be one of dreams that is now just one of struggle. And we're seeing 1 in 4 New Yorkers living in poverty and so many living in this permanent state of anxiety. And this is a...
Can we watch the Wiener documentary? Oh, that's such a good idea. Right now we're watching Andor season 2. We watched episodes 1 through 3 last Friday. So if you wanted to watch Andor and you haven't gotten around to it, if you could start from scratch and watch season 1 and then episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then catch up with us 4, 5, and 6 on this Friday. Here's how I would describe Andor. It's a movie. It's the first movie you've ever seen which takes the idea of what a revolution actually is like seriously. It's the first time you're not watching a storybook, but you're rather watching what seem to be real people doing a real revolution or trying to start a real revolution. It's the first, as far as mainstream movie, it's the first one I could think of that actually does that. Yeah, but do you condemn the Gorman Front? No. The Gorman Front is the lesser of two evils. They are a group of orphans. It's just space Bolsheviks. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. With a little bit of Maoism in there, with a little bit of, watching the anarchists. Oh, also, one of the Andor actors came out and condemned it as a genocide, by the way. Andor actress, I refuse to stay silent on Gaza. She's so cool. The show is still juvenile, don't you think? No. No, I don't. I actually don't. Unless you think that all science fiction is just inherent, or any kind of storytelling is inherently juvenile, I don't agree.
Campaign looking to make the city affordable for the very working class New Yorkers who built it, who today are being pushed out of it.
So a lot of that sounds familiar to what Mayor Bill de Blasio ran on in 2013. A tale of two cities was his slogan, suggesting that it was unaffordable for most. What makes you think, what are your concrete plans that are going to be successful when perhaps some of your predecessors were not?
We've sketched it out because what New Yorkers deserve is a plan that actually speaks to the crisis in their lives. And affordability is the #1 crisis. So we're going to freeze the rent for more than 2 million New Yorkers who live in rent-stabilized housing. We're going to make the slowest buses in the nation fast and free. And we're going to deliver universal child care to each and every New Yorker, whether their child is 6 weeks or 5 years of age. Because today, child care is the #2 reason people are leaving our city. And it makes sense. It costs $25,000 a year to raise a kid here, which is more money than it would cost to send that same kid to CUNY 18 years later.
So the Working Families Party, which has certainly credentials on the left, released its ranked endorsements of candidates. You were atop that just the other day, and it is ranked choice voting for this coming primary. But what do you say, though, to Democrats who look at what we saw in November with Vice President Harris losing? And a lot of the post-game analysis, if you will, was the party had moved too far to the left, that it was actually time to come back to the center a little bit, to connect to a lot of those working-class blue-collar voters who have broken for Trump in recent cycles. That seems to be what Governor Cuomo is saying. What do you say to people who say, well, I like the guy, but he's not right for this moment. He's too lefty.
Well, I think we as politicians need to lecture less and listen more. And when we saw New York have the greatest swing towards Trump in the entire nation, 11.5 points, we saw that it took place in the hearts of immigrant New York. And so I went there to Fordham Road in the Bronx, Hillside Avenue in Queens. I asked those voters, why did they vote for him? And they told me they remembered having more money in their pocket 4 years ago. I asked them what it would take to bring them back to the Democratic Party. They said a relentless focus on an economic agenda. And when I told them my plan to freeze the rent, make buses fast and free, deliver universal child care, they said that they would vote for me. And I think ultimately that's what we need, is a recognition that for too long our party has moved away from working class voters. It's time we actually bring them back, and it's time we do so with an agenda that is not only urgent but possible. It's just a question of political will.
So let's turn to public safety now. Any New York City mayor, that's a top priority. Giuliani, Bloomberg, de Blasio, the like. Mayor Adams ran on that first centrally 4 years ago. What is your relationship? What is your plan for policing, including there are some who suggest that, you're perhaps not supportive enough of the police department?
I've been very clear, which is that police have a critical role to play in creating public safety. And when I speak to those officers on the beat, I hear a frustration from them that we're asking them to do more than just focus on serious crimes. We're asking them to do the work of mental health professionals and social workers. And that reliance on having them deal with almost every failure of the social safety.
Personally, if you were going to ask me about cops in general, like what should cops be doing? I would want to focus on increasing the investigatory wing of the police. So that means catching fraudsters, catching scammers, catching spammers, catching sex criminals, catching pedophiles, catching pimps, catching exploitative employers, catching wage thieves, catching antisocial personalities in general. Keeping toms, sex creeps, stalkers. I would want to have the investigatory side of the police increased, right? Catch those people, not just having a bunch of guys milling around on the street with their thumbs up their ass. All right? Actually have detectives catching actual crimes instead of, guys standing around trying to get a discounted cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts or hassling people as they walk home from the bar. The Candy Crush Brigade, we need less of them. I want to catch the white collar criminals. I want to catch the people that are actually harming people out on the street. And you know what I want to take the money for? I was walking around LA, and LA is fucking filthy. LA is legitimately filthy. Like, even in the areas that are not choked by homeless encampments, there's just trash and the streets are just dirty. And it's like, why don't we invest in some city beautification, like street cleaners and cleaning up litter and, maybe planting some community plants? It's like, why does everything look like shit? It's like, clean this shit up, pull some weeds. You know what I mean? Clean shit up. Brace Belton's takes on cops is funny. In my ideal society, we're not getting rid of cops. I want more of them, but they do what I say. Unironically true. This is the correct messaging for cops. Defund or abolition is not mainstream. It will be an easier way to discredit people like Zohran. Here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. And I want to be as honest to my abolish fans and friends as possible. When they say abolish the police, that is a correct assessment of the institutions that we currently have. I agree with that. However, I would not have no public safety. So why would I say abolish? Because that's like, then I have to read you a book to explain it. In effect, I want to abolish the police, but by doing shit that they don't even know that it's like, they don't even know that it's coming. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I want to have a national police academy and national police ombudsman where you require cops. Like, anytime a cop shoots anyone, they get investigated by a national fucking investigatory unit that has absolutely no connection with those cops. The local DA has nothing to do with it. It's all done by experts, and they get paid bounties for prosecuting cops. Every time they successfully prosecute a cop for violating someone's rights, they get paid a bonus. All right. I want to create an internal a super internal affairs, national internal affairs, where they get a bonus every time they arrest and prosecute a corrupt cop. Isn't that the FBI? No, the FBI the FBI literally does that as a part-time thing with the DOJ. It's like not a real serious focus of the FBI. It's part of their like public corruption unit. It's very weak. The second, and like when we talk about national police standards and a national police academy, the reason why a lot of people hear this and they don't think it's that radical is because you don't realize just how unprofessional our police are. You don't know that police in America, most of them require a high school diploma. It's not a serious job. There are very little in the way of standards. I saved this from Denim Stream.
Looked at my like unroll, whatever the fuck they call it, the Twitch recap, and it was like I watched like 40 hours of Twitch. I'm not even lying, guys. I looked at my like unroll, whatever the fuck they call it, the Twitch recap, and it was like I watched like 40 hours of Twitch, and almost all of the hours were Mike. Because on days where I don't stream, I like to pull up his stream because it's like that in my brain is like Twitch time. So if I'm not streaming, I'm like, well, what do I do during Twitch time? Well, let me watch Mike.
Yeah, that's usually, that's pretty true. That's pretty true. That's pretty true. There are some counties in the US that if under so many people that people can run for judge's role with no law degree. Yes, but I'm not getting into that. Basically, if you look at some places where police are more effective at actually solving crimes, and I think there are such a thing as a crime. Just for the anarchists in the chat, I want you to understand there is such a thing as a crime. I'll give you an example of a crime in Mike from PA's world. Rape, neglecting a child, an employer stealing your wages. Those are crimes, all right? A landlord evicting a tenant. Those are examples of crimes in my worldview. Murder, of course. Yeah, murder is a crime. Genocide is a crime, all right? There are such a thing as crime. Who doesn't believe in crimes? Well, crimes are a construct, right? Like if a lion kills another lion, is that a crime? People saying yes. No. There's no lion society. There's no lion prosecutor. There's no lion sovereign that's going to go and like hold a trial and like punish them. It's not a crime. Crime requires human societies, right? Physical harm is a crime. No, it's not. And you know it's not. For physical harm to constitute a crime, you have to have society first. So we need to make a policing system for lions. Okay, what am I trying to say? All right. So crimes are a thing, and they should be a thing. The main problem that we have with America is that police are both unprofessional and highly politicized. So we live in a police state. We live in a police state where basically the cops extort trillions of dollars from our society, and they don't actually do any work. And people, they have so much propaganda around them that people think they're doing things that they are not doing. We don't have police as a professional job. So what I would want to do is mandate national police reforms. Shampoo tier list when? That would be what I think. To increase the clearance rate. 50% of murderers getting away with it. That's pretty bad, right? So is it anti-cop to be like, we need to reform our police to solve more murders and more rapes and more pedophile, catch more pedophiles, right? Like, is that anti-cop? And the answer is yes. It is anti-cop. It's anti-cop politically because cops don't want that. Cops do not want to be forced to be professionals. They don't want to have to actually be educated. They don't want to actually be held accountable for violating rights because they're a fucking gang. So the best way to be anti-cop is to talk it away where it seems like to the uninitiated that you're being pro-cop. But in actual reality, you are destroying policing as it exists in America. And this is what, the difference between a police officer in America and a police officer in China is night and day. Like literally, if you're in China and you lose your cell phone, you could go to the police station and say, hey, I lost my cell phone. Can you guys help me find it? And they will. That's the difference between China and America, okay? If you get your car stolen, the cops here won't even show up.
Hey, man, find these guys, or, you got any promising leads, or...
I'll just check with the boys down at the crime lab. They got 4 more detectives working on the case. They got us working in shifts. Leads.
My only hope is that the Big Lebowski kills me before the Germans can cut my...
Yeah, it's literally true, though. That's in other countries, they go, oh, wow, somebody committed grand theft. Let's try to find out who they were. Like, it's not, but in America, it's a fucking joke. If you've ever had your apartment broken into or a car stolen, cops don't give a shit here because they're unprofessional and they make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. There is a huge opportunity for a left-wing reforming of policing in America that could fundamentally change what makes it so shit. I mean, ultimately, as long as they serve capital, it's going to be shit. But America is even worse because they're literally a gang. Also, China defeated the U.S. in SWAT. Yeah, no shit.
What we've seen on the first day, he
Look how
rattles
out
up
of shape the American is.
rifle so it doesn't bounce off the railings or the walls. But rough guide, a shot away.
The sniper is up
is
and is
good.
shooting the target
yes, on the button.
before he's even
20 seconds on the button for the sniper. The assaulters through the door. 5 rooms, 5 targets, 5 looked clean to me. The deadweight dummy is on the shoulders. 53.39 of Sarah. I don't think so.
He didn't even get the shot off. They're done. China Police Team B is done. He hasn't even got the shot off.
Quick. Across the line. And
that's the NYPD emergency. Oh my God. One of the funniest things about America is we spend so much on the police, but they're such paper tigers that if anybody fought back, they would run home. They're not there to they don't believe in defending anything. This is one of the reasons, like, if you want to know why I'm so chill, China's literally gonna win. Like, I'm chill because it's already over. Like, China's the next global hegemon. The Communist Party of China is the winner of history. We actually don't live, like, the end of history is here, but it wasn't liberal democracy that won. It was single party communist technocracy that won. And we're just going through the motions. And Americans are in complete delusion about it. They're in complete delusion about it. When I saw that China was building 150 nuclear reactors, I knew it was kaput. I knew it was fuck it over. When I saw that Tibetan dam they're building, it's fucking over, man. It's completely over. Oh yeah, and this is, by the way, we could transition into this. China's global favorite. So let's finish Zohran, then we'll talk about how China is completely owning us.
Safety net is making it impossible for them to tackle those crimes. And so that's why we have put forward a proposal to create a Department of Community Safety that would focus on the mental health crisis, that would focus on gun violence, hate crimes, and ensure that we allow police to do their jobs and we hire mental health professionals to do the work that they are best suited to do.
And we've been talking all morning about this incident yesterday in Boulder, Colorado, where some elderly, mostly Jewish residents were holding a peaceful march, just asking for hostages to come home from Gaza. They were attacked by a man with a makeshift flamethrower. It is just the latest in a rise of anti-Semitic violent incidents across the country. New York City, of course, home to by far the largest.
I think it's more fair to call them anti-Zionist violent incidents. And like, they're not anti-Semitic, they're anti-Zionist incidents. And listen, I don't want people to go out there and kill random fucking grandmas that have been propagandized into believing Israel is good. Okay, that doesn't get you anywhere. All right. And you know, the shooter in Washington D.C. shooting some low-level, you know, staffers at the embassy, that's not going to get you anywhere. You know, random grandmas, low-level staffers, that doesn't get you anywhere. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the situation, but they're not anti-Semitic, they're anti-Zionist. And like, this is predictable. If you're doing a genocide and you're killing a million kids, this is going to start this is blowback. It's going to happen. People have tried calling their representatives and protesting and posting and doing everything they can and denying Kamala Harris their vote, and they're not seeing any change in policy. And when it's a genocide, people are going to start killing. I don't know what else to say. It's not good, but we got to change the policy. We got to end the war. Like, it is what it is.
Jewish population in the United States. What is your message to those voters, to Jewish residents of New York City who feel for their safety? Why should they trust you at the helm?
You know, I hear them and I hear that fear when I speak to Jewish New Yorkers across the city. And ultimately, Jewish New Yorkers deserve to be protected. They deserve to be safe.
I don't think they're going to endorse about what AOC said about not endorsing primary challengers. Okay, so I'm not trying to beat you up personally, but you just said something that makes you look uneducated, and that's fine. Like, I'm going to correct you in a gentle way, which is, a primary challenger. Okay, so in a primary, there's 3 types of candidates. Okay, all right. So you have incumbents, you have primary, you have a challenger of the incumbent, and then you have an open race or an open seat. Okay, if you are running for a seat that is open to your party, meaning the incumbent is not of your party, you are not a challenger you're not a primary challenger in the sense that AOC was talking, or AOC, you know, not endorsing primary challengers of other sitting Democrats, which I don't think that's even true, by the way. I think that's a rumor that was started, but of a discussion that was supposedly made in exchange for her getting and that didn't happen. So I don't even know that story is real. Number one. Number two, Zohran is not challenging a Democrat because I'm pretty sure Adams is going to run as an independent. Is he not? Or is he also in the primary technically? Is he in the Dem primary? I think he is in the Dem primary. Can we not shame people for asking questions in good faith? Yeah, we're not shaming him. We're not shaming him for those are good faith questions. I'm just saying that, like, if we're going to be very in the weeds, we need to make sure we know exactly what we mean by each thing, right? He should be running for jail. He was pardoned by Trump because he helped immigration harm immigrants. He helped ICE to save his own skin. Did you see the Irish MMA fight? Yes, we will be looking at that as well. Cuomo is running in the Dem primary and as an independent. Adams is just running as an independent. Well, there you have it. So it's not a primary challenger. He is running in the primary for an open seat, or he's running for the open it's an open primary challenge. He's not a challenger to an incumbent. So she endorses people like this all the time.
And as the next mayor of the city, that's what I will do. And I've heard, especially when we speak about anti-Semitism, how do we go beyond just talking about it? How do we actually tackle it? And that's why at the heart of that proposal to create a Department of Community Safety is a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%, the very programming we've seen be
AOC endorsing NYC Councilor Chi OC last week. Feels like if she was going to endorse Bandame, she'd done it by now. No. From what I understand, she endorsed June 5th last time. So it wouldn't surprise me if she endorsed this week.
Effective at countering the rise in these kinds of attacks.
All right, certainly a fascinating race. The primary just a few weeks away. Candidate for New York City.
Basically, what AOC is doing, and to explain what AOC is doing, I don't want to be... This is good, though, by the way, chat. He looked very normal. He looked very normal. It was very good. I should have just reacted to it more straight up, but I got distracted. Anyway, what AOC is doing is... she's holding off her endorsement till the last minute so she doesn't have to closely associate herself with Zohran, and therefore have to campaign for him and do like hits for him, while at the same time trying to make people pursue her so she becomes the center of conversations constantly while having to not do any work. And then she'll probably endorse late so that people complaining about her not endorsing will have to shut the fuck up. But also, her being associated with Zohran won't last that long unless he wins. So she'll bandwagon his victory, or she'll be only associated with him for like a week or two. Personally, I think this is dog shit, and it pisses me off. But at the same time, it is what it is. Like, anyway, chat, I'm an MMA fan now. Patty McCory, MMA, street justice, Irish flag, Palestinian flag. He was fighting an Israeli fighter. I am an MMA fan now. No one milkshake. Okay, I'm not even gonna post it. Nobody milkshake duck me this man. Nobody milkshake duck this man to me. For me, he is just a beautiful pro-Palestine fighter.
I don't think it's a genocide, but I think I think it is without a doubt true that Israel has committed war crimes.
You wouldn't have said that at the podium.
Yeah, look, because when you're at the podium, you're not expressing your personal opinion. You're expressing the conclusions of the United States government. The United States government had not concluded that they've committed war crimes, still have not concluded that.
Mike, I have a China question that might completely shake my worldview. My concern is my great-grandpa was a war criminal. He participated in burning supplies of the pro-Zhang part of the Chinese resistance so that the CCP fighters could access it. My question is, was supporting Zhang prior to World War II as bad as it seems? No. However, your grandfather was kind of a loser. Not gonna lie. I mean, your grandfather, like, actually was a loser. Like, he objectively did lose. He actually did lose. Like, he lost. Like, he lost the war. Like, the communists won.
But your personal view is they have.
Well, so
and they were while you were there.
But yes. But here, let me qualify that. There.
Okay, wait a minute. So wait a minute. You went out there and put your face to lies.
Two ways to think about the commission of war crimes. One is if the state has pursued a policy to deliberately committing war crimes or is acting reckless in a way that aids and abets war crimes. If the state is committing war crimes.
That's exactly what Israel's doing.
Crimes. And that, I think, is an open question.
No, it's not. You have members of the Jewish Power Party screaming they're killing everybody, and they're in the government. You have senior executive decision makers. You have a policy of impunity that is well known at the lower ranks. It is a systemic policy to commit war crimes. They're fucking guilty.
I think what is hard is almost certainly not an open question is that there have been individual incidents that have been war crimes where Israeli soldiers, members of the Israeli military, have committed war crimes. And we do know that Israel has opened investigations, but look, we are many months into those investigations and we're not seeing Israeli soldiers held accountable. So ultimately, in almost every major conflict, including conflicts prosecuted by democracies, you will see individual members of the military, of militaries commit war crimes. And the way you judge a democracy is whether they hold those people accountable.
But Israel hasn't.
That's my point,
right.
Is we have not yet seen them hold sufficient numbers of the military accountable, and I think it's an open question whether they're going to.
He's still talk about exactly like he was in the Biden administration. Yeah, exactly. He's a war criminal. By the way, oh yeah, the U.S. government hadn't concluded, blah, 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 blah. So you were aiding and abetting the delivery of weapons and propaganda as they were committing war crimes. Which, ladies and gentlemen, the Chinese century has arrived. China's global favorability rising. Views of the U.S. turn negative. Global average net favorability of the U.S. and China. China plus 8.8. U.S. negative 1.5. Oof. And when Donald Trump got inaugurated, it crashed it. And China was on a general... China's actually been rising since July of last year. Oh, excuse me. July of 2024. And they really rose when they stood up to the U.S. on tariffs. That was a huge bend of the curve. I think that if I were able to talk to Xi Jinping, and if I were to deign to give him my opinion on anything, I would tell him that the Gaza genocide is a massive opportunity for China to massively raise its favorability all over the world by just coming out and sanctioning Israel and just going hard against Israel. Like they're going relatively hard against them diplomatically, but not anywhere near as hard as they could. They would probably get another 10 points net favorability worldwide if they did that. I'll let Xi know. Okay. And I don't think I'm underestimating how important it is, because in the Arab world, raising China's favorability in the Arab world, it would be huge for that. It would raise China's favorability with a bunch of people in Europe and the United States and Latin America and places even like Japan. Japan hates Israel. New polling shows how much global support Israel has lost. Net favorability in Japan went from negative 39.9 to negative 62 net favorability. Negative 62. South Korea from negative 5.5 to negative 47.8. It is the East Asian countries that are despising Israel even more. India wouldn't like it. India already hates China. India has a inferiority complex to China because they are objectively inferior. Like India and China basically shook off the colonial control at the same time. All right. And since that time, and they were basically at the very similar position economically. If anything, India was ahead. And guess what? Now China's GDP is 5 times India's. So when you compare capitalist development of a country to communist development of a country, and the other thing to keep in mind is China was like had a much more vicious civil war. China fought the United States of America in the Korean War. China was then forced into conflict with the Soviet Union and was also sanctioned by the US for decades and the West. The fact that China's ahead of India proves communist development is objectively superior to neoliberal, capitalist, whatever development. Like you have a tester. There's no, like, they were in the same position, geographically very similar conditions, and China has lapped them 5 fucking times. India did have socialist-oriented development for a while. Who colonized China? Pretty much everybody is the answer to that. They had what was called treaty cities. They also had Japan occupied large swaths of China as well in a country that we call Manchukuo. The British had Hong Kong. The Portuguese had Macau. There was there's like 20 some treaty. They're called treaty cities. Yeah, here you go. Here's all the cities that were ruled by foreign powers. The British established their first treaty ports in China after the First Opium War by the Treaty of Nanking in 1842, as well as ceding the island of Hong Kong to Great Britain in perpetuity. The treaty also established 5 treaty ports at Shanghai, Guangzhou, Ningbo, Fuzhou, and Xiamen. I can't spell. I can't pronounce Chinese words. I really need to learn Chinese. The following year, the Chinese and British signed the Treaty of the Bouge, which added provisions for extraterritoriality and most favored nation status for the latter country. Subsequent negotiations with the Americans, French, led to further concessions for these nations on the same terms as the British. Now, China was never completely, totally taken over, but they were carved up by the imperial powers. Mike, why are you celebrating an Israeli MMA fighter getting knocked out? This is the first time he fought a grown man and not a starving toddler. Ha! Conditions in China were way worse than India. Yes, that's also true. There's Chinese famines. Like, China was suffering nonstop famine before the communists came in. Like, look at this. There was a famine of 1810 to 1811. 11 million people died. Another famine in 1850 to 1817. Not very good records for that, so hundreds of thousands. The 1846 to 1851 famine led to 15 million deaths. 1857 famine, 8 million deaths. 1851 to 1873, 30 million deaths. Northern Chinese famine of 1876 to 1879, 13 million deaths. Northern Chinese famine of 1901, 0.2 million deaths. Chinese famine of 1906 to 1907, 25 million deaths. Chinese famine of 1821, 500,000 deaths. Chinese famine of 1928 to 1930, 10 million deaths. Szechuan famine of 1936 to 1937, 5 million deaths. Chinese famine of 1942 to 1943, 1 million deaths. And then people are like, oh my God, a quadrillion people died in the Great Chinese Famine under Mao. Mao Zedong killed a quadrillion. 15 million deaths. 15 to 55 million. 55 million being bullshit. But do you see how it was just like there's nonstop massive famines in China? And then notice, guess what? They stopped. Wait a minute. I thought communism killed a quadrillion. What happened? Communism killed quadrillion people. And the exact same thing happened in Russia. Droughts and famines in Russia and the Soviet Union. Is there a list? Okay, no, never mind. But there were nonstop famines. List of post-1900 droughts and famines. During the Russian Revolution and the subsequent Russian Revolution, and the Soviet Union ended famine as well. From 1947 to 1941, there were no known famines. So both the Soviet Union and the Chinese Communist Party ended famine in their countries, and people are like, but they killed a quadrillion! Because history exists, and they came into power into states that were constantly having famine. But they had one more famine, guys, so that means they killed quadrillion. I'm not saying, by the way, that Mao didn't make mistakes or the Soviet Union didn't make mistakes. They obviously did. And they would be the first to acknowledge it. But they were coming from an underdeveloped, backward society that had been colonized and ripped apart by war, civil war, feudalism, and they brought those countries to world superpower status under the Communist Party. The Soviet Union went from the backward feudal power to a world superpower standing toe-to-toe with the US, even though it had just fought a devastating war with Nazi Germany, where it was the #1 target, and its territory was invaded with the full might of the Nazi regime, 100% like focused on them. And they still were able to fight that war, come out of it, and stand toe-to-toe with the US for 50 fucking years after starting way behind. This is the reality of the fastest economic development in history happened to the Soviet Union and China. That is a fact of history.
China Current is a weekly news talk show from China to the world.
No, new aircraft carrier. Did you guys hear about the Chinese fighter jet? Let's do our China Glaze session. Who wants a China Glaze session? It's time for your favorite China Glaze session with Mike. China Glaze session. We need some more China glazing on this stream. Clean Energy just put China's CO2 emissions into reverse for the first time. This report came out 2 weeks ago. For the first time, the growth in China's clean power generation has caused the nation's carbon dioxide emissions to fall despite rapid power demand growth. And this is the thing that China is doing that the US and Europe isn't doing. They're raising hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. Hundreds of millions of people are being raised out of poverty, literal shacks, into modern apartment buildings and high rises. So they have power demand growth, but they're doing it by growing green energy, nuclear power, and hydropower. The new analysis for Carbon Brief shows China's emissions were down 1.6 year on year in the first quarter of 2025 and by 1% in the latest 12 months. Electricity supply from new wind, solar, and nuclear capacity was enough to cut coal power output even as demand surged, whereas previous falls were due to weak growth. The analysis, based on official figures and commercial data, shows that China's CO2 emissions have now been stable or falling for more than a year. However, they remain only 1% below the latest peak, implying that any short-term jump could cause China's CO2 emissions to rise to a new record. Other key findings include growth in clean power generation has now overtaken the current and long-term average growth in electricity demand, pushing down fossil fuel use. And this is the turning point, chat. This is the turning point, chat, because China had this difficult position of being a country that was under threat of being cut off from energy imports, and their own domestic energy supplies being coal. So in order to make themselves safe against, being blockaded by the US Navy, they had to rely on domestic energy, and their domestic energy that was available was coal. So for a long time, they've been relying on that coal power, but they've been trying so hard to create an alternative because they also honestly believe in they want to raise the standard of living of Chinese people because so many people were in poverty. And they also want to grow their economy, but they also don't want to be vulnerable to the US. So that put them in a bind, right? But now, because of the trillions of dollars of investments that China has made, they're now pushing down fossil fuel use as they're growing their electricity demand, which is that is the turning point that everybody's been hoping China would get to, where they're not still building coal plants because demand is growing so much. Power sector emissions fell 2% year on year, and that means they're replacing coal with renewable energy. If this pattern is sustained, then it would herald a peak and sustained decline in China's power sector emissions. The trade war initiated by US President Donald Trump has prompted renewed efforts to shift China's economy toward domestic consumption rather than exports. A new pricing policy for renewables has caused a rush to install before it takes effect. And this is the level of structural decline in emissions that we've been looking. And there you have it. Now, there was a COVID dip. I don't know if you guys see the COVID dip, but China's emissions started growing again. And now this is the first time they've really been able to stop and plateau it. And that is what's very important. And one of the key drivers, we talked about this the other day, China to allocate $70 billion in capital for new infrastructure projects. Like, China is getting its mojo back. You don't say. Here's the nuclear business platform. 500 gigawatts by 2050 inside China's massive nuclear expansion and its global power shift. Oh, isn't that's beautiful right there. Why is China seemingly the only country in the world that isn't terrified of nuclear power? They're not. France is also not. The answer is in China, they have coal power and it chokes the skies with pollution. So China has been, everybody in China recognizes that they have to get off of coal as fast as they can because it sucks, which is actually why Xi Jinping declared war on pollution. And the University of Chicago published this a couple of years ago. China's war on pollution, extraordinarily successful. China's air pollution reductions account for more than 3/4 of the global decline in pollution since 2013. In 2014, the Chinese government declared a war against pollution to tackle pollution with the same determination the country took to its battle against poverty. In 2021, Beijing's average concentration of particulate matter of 2.5 nanometers dropped by 63% from 2013 levels, an average annual reduction of 8% per year. Compared with pollution reduction process in the US, he said the United States started to focus on reducing pollution in the early 70s. It took several decades and recessions to achieve the same pollution reductions that China has accomplished in 8 years. He claimed that such air pollution reductions would add 2 more years to Chinese people's average life expectancy if these reductions could be sustained. In a bid to pursue green growth, China has announced that it would strive to peak its carbon dioxide emissions by 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. He said that China's carbon targets are very ambitious, and its pledge to achieve carbon neutrality is well welcomed internationally. So not only are they saying they're going to do shit, they are doing it. World's biggest polluter, China, is ramping up renewables. Here's an offshore solar farm, 40 megawatts. On Wednesdays, China's National Development and Reform Commission announced that the country will be investing in major renewable energy projects, developing new offshore wind farms and large-scale clean energy bases that combine solar and wind farms. Do you guys know that solar punk utopic picture? You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like the world if so-and-so thing happened. You know that meme? What is it called? The world if meme? Yeah. This is it. The world if meme, the future world if meme. This is Xi Jinping saw this meme and he said, we're going to do that. He literally saw this meme and was like, yep, you know that meme, boomer. Yeah, fuck off. It's the latest move by the country, both a leader in renewable energy and the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases, to make inroads in the green energy transition. And here's the thing about this, chat. This is true. This is true. I don't want anybody to think in my Glaze session that I'm lying about China. China is the world's #1 emitter of greenhouse gases by far right now. Now, if you look at historical emissions, Europe and the US have still emitted more historically, meaning if you measure our atmosphere, much more of the carbon that's there has come from US or European sources. However, that's not how it works, all right? We have a global budget of carbon, all right? It doesn't matter if you emitted it 10 years ago or you're emitting it now. It doesn't matter about fairness and all that other shit. We have to stop emitting carbon. It is what it is. So people are right to point out that China is #1. But here's the difference between the US and China. China is executing a plan to go carbon neutral. And not only is it a plan, they're doing it. You could see them doing it. They're actively pouring the concrete. They're actively building the nuclear plants. They're actively building the high-speed rail. They're actively building the renewable energy. They're actively densifying. They're actively creating public transit that runs on electricity. They're actively creating the infrastructure to replace. They're building the EVs. They're building everything they can to make sure that transportation and energy is created by renewable energy sources, nuclear power, zero carbon sources. They're doing it. Yes, they have a lot of coal power right now. There's no denying they have coal power. There's no denying it. Everybody sees it. Nobody can hide from that. But they're actually replacing it. They're actually doing it. They're actually building the smart grid. In fact, they're the only country in the world that has one. So eventually this is going to happen where the US becomes the leading emitter of greenhouse gases again. China is going to take their greenhouse gases and crash it. It may even be within the decade. And when that happens, what are you going to say? What's the cope going to be? And the thing about the US is we're not doing what China's doing. We're not building the smart grid. We're not building the nuclear plants. We're not building the renewable energy. We're not building the ultra high, the smart grid, which is the high voltage direct current lines. We're not doing it. China has a smart grid, so their genocide is permissible. There is no genocide in China. Even the State Department is dropping that argument. Like they don't even. State Department lawyers concluded insufficient evidence to prove genocide in China. Wah 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 wah. Because there is no genocide. It's made up. Now, is there oppression of Uyghurs? Yes, there was. Yes, there was. There was a serious terrorist movement supported by the United States and allied with Al Qaeda that did a bunch of bus bombings in China, killing hundreds of people. And China reacted heavy-handedly and did, to destroy the terrorist networks. Now, did they do what Israel did and starve 2 million people? No. But they did excessively heavy-handed anti-terrorism policy, that it is what it is. I disagree with a lot of what was done. But the idea that it's a genocide is batshit crazy when you could see an active genocide happening in Israel right now, where they're actively killing kids with bombs. Fucking ridiculous. Compare the two, just totally disgusting. Should the United States support Chinese separatism? And the American Enterprise Institute. Xinjiang, Tibet. Is support for separatism the answer? There is precedent for American support for Tibetan separatists in the 1950s. The CIA helped train Tibetan agents and airdrop supplies into the captive nation. Ultimately, the assistance fizzled out because the government in exile remained more committed to autonomy within the People's Republic of China than independence. The State Department might also envision an enhanced status for the World Uyghur Congress. While not separatist, the Congress does advocate for Uyghurs to determine the political future of East Turkestan. Washington might also welcome direct political representation for Inner Mongolia and advocate against its further colonization. I mean, it is what it is. I like Chinese police. They execute drug dealers in the street. It's awesome. No, they don't. First of all, there's not really many drug dealers in China at all because the CIA can't operate there. So the main source of addictive heroin and opioids is the British and the American CIA intelligence services. Wherever the CIA goes is whereas heroin is produced. So, for example, the KMT heroin. So the KMT is the right wing anti-communist forces in China, and they were the major dealers of heroin in something called the Golden Triangle in Southeast Asia when they were fighting the civil war against the communists. And so the KMT is now in Taiwan. So Taiwan was actually, the KMT was a large source of heroin in the US through most of our history. And then it shifted to Afghanistan. After the Taliban was overthrown in Afghanistan during the Afghanistan war, heroin exploded. And then now that the United States has been forced out of Afghanistan, heroin has been exterminated in Afghanistan. So the primary source of heroin has typically been the CIA or our allies. Chinese troops of the Kuomintang in Burma were in effect the forebears of the private narcotic armies operating in the Golden Triangle. In the late 40s, as the Chinese Communist Party gained power, it ordered 10 million addicts into compulsory treatment, had dealers executed, and opium-producing regions planted with new crops. Consequently, opium production shifted south of the Chinese border into the Golden Triangle region. Small-scale opium production in Myanmar dated back to the Kunbang dynasty in 1750, chiefly for the consumption of foreigners. The Chinese troops of the Kuomintang in Burma were in effect the forebears of the private narcotic armies operating in the Golden Triangle. In 1949, thousands of defeated Kuomintang troops crossed over the border in the Yunnan province into Burma, a nation with a weak government. And the Kuomintang seized control of the border regions of Burma. Almost all of the KMT opium was sent south into Thailand. The KMT-controlled territories made up Burma's major opium-producing region, and the shift in KMT policy allowed them to expand their control of the region's opium trade. Furthermore, the Communist China's eradication of illicit opium cultivation in Yunnan by the early 1950s effectively handed the opium monopoly to the KMT army in the Shan state. The opium monopoly to the KMT army. So if you know anybody who died of heroin, that was your government who did it. The main consumers of the drug were local ethnic Chinese and those across the border, Yunnan and the rest of Southeast Asia. They coerced the local villagers for recruits, food, and money, and exacted a heavy tax on the opium farmers. One American missionary to the Luo people of the Kuntung state testified that the KMT tortured the Lahu for failing to comply with the regulations. Annual production increased 20 times from 30 tons at the time of Burmese independence to 60 tons in the mid-50s. Myanmar is the world's largest producer of illicit opium and has been a significant cog in the transnational drug trade since World War II. And then we can get into this more with like Taliban eradicates opium or heroin. Oh, here it is. The once booming drug town going bust under Taliban rule. Wait a minute. What happened? The U.S. was in Afghanistan for 20 years and there was an opium trade that was heroin. And now that we've lost the war and we left, suddenly opium trade is going bust. And the answer, it's very unsatisfying, but cartels are actually intelligence operations. What, you think they can move billions of dollars into banks without being protected by the American government? You think banks don't know somebody is giving billions of dollars to them to be washed? The only reason they can, the cartels can operate is because the U.S. federal government looks the other way or is working with these groups. This is a well-known fact, which is why when bankers get caught and it looks bad, they get a slap on the fucking wrist instead of thrown in jail for 25 years because they don't want anybody to fuck it up. The same insurgents who embraced opium to help finance their war have put an end to it. This is a lie, by the way. This is a half-truth. Most of the major opium producers were actually American allies. In fact, it's like major opium producer U.S. ally in Afghanistan. Let me see if I can find it. The Americans and the Afghans joined in a brief but significant opium alliance during the Second World War, with the United States secretly producing the bulk. Do you think domestic campaigns to legalize opioids are a CIA op? No. I just think they're libertarian perverts. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit, dude. That's crazy. By the way, the idea of like, oh, Twitch should ban politics. All right, I'm going to Kick. Okay. All that Kick is, by the way, just to make fun of Tech Toad for a second. All that Kick is Twitch. I hate to blow up everybody's spot. Kick is Twitch. It's just there was a lot of heat on Twitch for having crypto casinos that were very sketchy. And so they created basically a Twitch clone so they can run unlimited crypto scams. And also it allows them to have more edgy content and sell it and have that money go to Twitch. That's all it is. It's literally just a Twitch clone. All the money for the infrastructure of it goes to Twitch. So from as far as Twitch is concerned, they don't give a shit. It's the same thing. So it's a win-win for Twitch.
Oh. Milestone. To learn about types of fish, to practicing fishing techniques. Let me see these techniques. What is this?
So this is an app called Dreams.
I'm too drunk for this. What's going on?
It's breaking down your milestones, and so you can hold a pufferfish. And they found 7 people that can help you.
Oh, this is AI.
This is AI, and there's 7 people that can help you.
That's really dog shit. I hate AI.
Okay.
I'll see you later.
She's so cool. She's so fucking cool. I love Peach Jars. I'm unaware of Kick. Kick is an alternative media platform founded by a crypto casino owner where they basically can, say racial slurs and they can be racist and do dangerous, like, lolcow content, far-right content, more pornographic content. It's basically just like it's a live streaming site, but that's basically it. My wife went to school with her at college. She's honestly a really nice person outside of streaming. Aww. Mike, you realize that Twitch should ban politics take from Asmund was a scumfuck attempt to break shit on his way out while knowing he was already in negotiations with Kick? Who gives a fuck? Like, honestly, who gives a fuck? He's irrelevant. He's literally irrelevant. We're going to talk about Asmongold in a minute. Who gives a fuck? I can't wait. Oh, man. I can't wait till the mainstream starts looking at Asmongold. Oh, I can't wait. Here's what's funny. Like, a lot of Asmongold watchers, they laugh at Asmongold. You know, we all do. But pretty soon, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to make watching Asmongold mean that you are actually a disgusting roach. And it's going to be shameful. It's not going to be like, haha, lol cow. It's going to be, oh my God, you watch Asmongold? And my ultimate goal is to get Trump to individually condemn him as disgusting, which won't be that hard to do. Once we get like enough attention on Asmongold being a cockroach surrounded in filth, if you know Donald Trump, which I do from watching him for like 11 years now, he likes clean, shiny, gold-plated stuff, high-end luxury. All right, he looks at Asmongold as a fucking rat. He would be thoroughly disgusted by him. He would honestly want him imprisoned. And he would want nothing to do with it. Trump is a big aesthetics guy. He likes big, strapping men who are attractive. He talks about something called central casting, which is a boomer reference for the studio system, where they would have like a lot of actors or aspiring actors on contracts, and they were like considered traditionally attractive people. So you would go to central casting if you wanted people that are really attractive. Okay, that's what he's referring to. If you're less focused on the craft of movie making and you want more like pretty people, you would go to central casting. So that's what Trump constantly refers to, because he likes handsome people. Asmongold is a fucking disgusting rat. Now, I'm not saying that I'm super hot by any means. I'm not saying I'm super hot. What I am saying is, if Donald Trump ever saw Asmongold, he would be fucking repulsed. So my goal, my lofty goal, is to get there to be enough mainstream media attention. I actually think Fox News won't cover Asmongold because of that. Because they know that he's on their side, but they don't want to actually have to be forced to talk about him, because the women on Fox News, like the anchors, would be gagging.
Here is what it has decided for Afghanistan. And I bet you don't know this either.
Libertarians being right once in a while. Yes, I know that Mar-a-Lago has health violations. That's different than literally living in filth. Is Asmongold the Hassan of the right? Yes, he is. Except Hassan is, because they represent the right completely. The left wants somebody who is empathetic, intelligent, attractive, knowledgeable, has ethos. The right just wants to hear their own opinions parroted back to them, and to bully people and say based. Brain dead, fucking disgusting slob who's full of resent. That's what the right wants. They are perfect examples of the left versus the right. How do you think he smells? He's putrid. It's not even, you don't even have to, he lives in literal rot. His teeth are rotting out of his head, like literally rotting. His gums are bleeding. He doesn't take showers for months. He doesn't change for months. His underwear literally rots off his body. This is legitimately true. He eats disgusting fast food, and then he leaves the like papers and wrappers and half full soda containers to rot until they literally dissolve in his room. There is vermin actively teeming within piles of trash surrounding him.
Over 5 million subscribers and streams every day to over 100,000 people. He is one of the most well-known streamers on Twitch. He has over 5 million subscribers and streams every day to over 100,000 people, except on Mondays and Fridays. Ladies and gentlemen, Asmongold! Come in here, you son of a... Get the fuck out! How the fuck do you have a girlfriend? He is one of the most...
Why would I don't wear deodorant. The last time I wore deodorant is whenever I thought I could wear Axe body spray and girls would like me. I was like 14. I don't wear fucking deodorant. You know why? You know why I don't need deodorant? Because no, I don't need it because I'm not fat. Fat people need deodorant because they smell bad because all the Cheetos are coming through their skin. No, absolutely not. You got the grease going through. That doesn't happen with me. That's not like me at all, bro. Like, why would I don't wear deodorant.
Honestly, I'm surprised his house was never condemned. Because if you have a house that's infested with pests and somebody reported you to like the city and they came by and they saw that your house was like full of rats and cockroaches and spewing it into the neighborhood, you could actually have your house condemned and then you like evicted. But maybe that's not true in Texas. But in like other states that are functioning, that would be the true. He doesn't need deodorant because the roaches are nested under his armpits. Yeah. Maybe in Texas they don't have rules like that. That's YIMBYism, chat. That's YIMBY for you. Holy shit. Okay. Holy fucking shit. Have I played Night Rain yet? No. All right, chat. Let us hop into the Boulder, Colorado attack. So basically, there was like one of these, vigils for the hostages. Vigils for the hostages in held in Gaza by Hamas, and somebody came with a flamethrower and just fired it into the crowd.
CNN breaking news.
And the breaking news this morning, the FBI is investigating an attack on a Jewish gathering in Boulder, Colorado as an act of terror. Officials say at least 8 people were injured at the event held in support of Israeli hostages in Gaza. It was a disturbing scene. Smoke rising after the FBI says a man used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. Among the injured was a Holocaust survivor. One of the people who attended the event told CNN. Witnesses described the chaos.
We're all trying to be like, what do we need to do to put this fire out? This person is screaming, upset, on the ground, on rock, it's rock, it's concrete. How do we put out this fire? This person is burning.
The person who threw the Molotov cocktail had 2 more in his hand. And he was holding them and he was yelling and he was screaming at everybody. I think he was saying, "You're killing my people," as he was holding, and I was only trying to make sure people were getting away because I saw another bomb going off that was in his hand.
All right, there is a suspect under arrest this morning. Officials have identified him as 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Solomon. He was seen shirtless, carrying 2 bottles. You can see it there. The FBI says he shouted, "Free Palestine." He is due in court this afternoon after being booked on multiple charges, including felony use of incendiary devices. Sources tell CNN he had applied for asylum in the U.S. and was denied a visa to enter the country in 2005. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller says he had illegally overstayed a tourist visa. Let's get right to CNN's Bryn Gingras. Bring us up to speed. A lot of new developments this morning.
Yeah, the first is that Sabri is behind bars, or Solomon rather, is behind bars right now on $10 million bail. He has a court date, as you said.
I mean, my reaction to this is like, yeah, like you're going to see stuff. Did I not say this like 3 weeks ago, chat, that I felt like I called it. I literally called it. I said, well, I could just feel it in my gut. We're about to have a bunch of events because the genocide is reaching the final stage and people are going to start attacking, and it's going to, I literally called it. Like, I literally called it. Here's the thing. The reason why I called it is because what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. And if you are a person who is openly espousing your support of Israel in the United States, this is a heavily armed country. It's easy to get material. It's easy to get weapons here. And so eventually people are going to start using these weapons. And the reality of life is this. If somebody is willing to die, they can kill a lot of people. There's no way to stop attacks from killing a lot of people in the situation and with the availability of arms that we have in this country. There's no way to make secure. No way. You can make things harder. You could spend a lot of money on security. But fundamentally, if somebody is determined to do damage and they're willing to die to do it, they could kill a lot of people. And so now that we have a genocide, a notorious genocide happening, and the U.S. is not doing anything to stop it, and there are a lot of supporters of that genocide in this country, you're going to see desperate people lashing out and doing random acts of violence. It is what it is. If you want peace, then we need to have peace in Gaza. I personally want to say I do not support doing acts of violence like this because it's just going to result in a further scapegoating of the Free Palestine movement, and it's going to cause backlash because people don't want to see violence in their communities. So you're actually helping the cause of the oppressor by doing attacks like this on random fucking people. Even if those people are Zionists or supporters of Israel, doing random attacks like this is not the way, and it's wrong. But they're predictable. They are predictable, and they will continue to happen. I'm surprised more assassination attempts haven't happened toward Israeli ambassadors, Israeli officials, big supporters, like Congress people, for example, have very light security. It's not out of the question at a town hall a big Zionist could get assassinated in the Republican or Democratic Party. There is very light security on Congress people when they're back in their home districts. There's very light security generally. Even the president, like with even Donald Trump, when he was running for president as an active candidate with active Secret Service protection, had shots hit him in the fucking ear. I'm surprised that there's not more of these, quite frankly. Like, it is what it is. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. Because, again, all that's going to happen is an increase of oppression.
1:30.
Mike, what? Why are you saying Mike? You said Mike twice. Mike, what?
The time there in Colorado. So we'll be looking forward to see what happens there. We know that there are multiple felony charges that he is booked on.
Like, it's because the Free Palestine movement is inherently peaceful. That's why you haven't seen it happen. Here's the thing. There's no such thing as inherently peaceful, right? Like, this guy is obviously a man who's suffering some sort of other mental health problems, which is why he lashed out in this way. This was obviously not well planned. It's obviously something that happened spur of the moment in some sort of psychotic state of mind. Like, but this is going to continue to occur. And I don't say this to condone it. I say it to simply express the reality that you can't kill millions of people and then have no consequences arise from that.
Including murder charges, though we have not learned from officials of any of these victims dying. So we're waiting to hear what that means for those charges.
Oh, people are going to die. If people actually got hit by the Molotov cocktail and got third-degree burns all over their body, they're done. They're going to die. It's going to be a slow, painful death. Like, gosh, 1 minute they were in a pro-genocide rally and the next they're going to die. Like, that's crazy.
As John described, and you just heard from witnesses there, it was certainly a chaotic scene as these, this is a weekly event that happens with this group of people.
I just want you to understand, like, this is not good. This is bad. First of all, he's going to bring scapegoating on immigrants. He's going to give the Trump administration exactly what they want, which is a Reichstag fire so they can suppress Free Palestine movement. Just as things are starting to pivot, now is not the time to do violent attacks on random people, you dumb fuck. We have European countries coming out saying they might need to sanction Israel. We have Donald Trump himself at his wit's end. Let the Palestinian people lead. Like, doing this shit is just so counterproductive.
To support the hostages that are held in Gaza by Hamas.
Like, attacking random elderly Jewish people who got tricked by propaganda in fucking Boulder, Colorado. Like, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing? This isn't Benjamin Netanyahu. This isn't a fucking, IDF unit. This is a bunch of random dipshit boomer Americans in Boulder. You're doing fucking nothing. You are just giving aid and comfort to Israel.
This person, Solomon, according to police, showed up.
This guy doesn't represent the movement. Of course he doesn't represent the movement. That's my entire point.
Makeshift flamethrower with Molotov cocktails. Witnesses describe how he was just dousing people and trying, people were running to their aid, trying to basically put out the flames with water bottles, we're told.
With something like alcohol, you have to smother it. Water will not work. Water will not work.
4 women, 4 men injured in this, all brought to hospitals. 2 actually had to be air flighted. As John mentioned, one of those victims, a Holocaust survivor. Let's hear more.
Officially calling this one and the last one bullshit. Okay, I'm going to time you out because that's just nonsense. There's no evidence that this is bullshit. It's pretty clear that both of the Washington, D.C. assassination of the Israeli embassy officials and this attack on random, here's the thing about the hostage thing. These people might have even been in favor of stopping the war. I don't actually know what this event was. Like, it's actually it could. I don't even know if this guy did it for anti-Semitic reasons. It's just he said you're killing my people, so that leads me to believe that he did so for anti-Israeli reasons. These attacks are not productive attacks. They were people who were selling West Bank settlement land. Do you actually have evidence for that?
Or from the governor there in Colorado.
Also, the other thing to remind yourself in moments like this is everything that you post into the internet is logged by the NSA and connected back to you.
I've walked by the way, these folks who most weeks are there, reminding us that the hostages are still being held by Hamas. And to think that they would be attacked viciously and targeted simply because of their political beliefs in this country in this day and age is just completely, hard to believe, frankly. We want to.
It's kind of brave of Jared Polis to come out as pro-Hamas. And he doesn't want anybody attacked for their political beliefs. It's pretty crazy of him to come out as pro-Hamas.
Make sure that, again, no matter what your viewpoints are in our state, that you feel safe. And in particular, now a lot of members of our Jewish community feel particularly threatened by this act of terrorism.
Wow.
And as we said, this is being investigated as an act of terror. We're learning from sources that investigators are looking to see also.
I mean, I think it's pretty safe to call this terrorism. I think it is a non-state actor attacking civilians for the purpose of a political message. I think that's terrorism. A clinical definition of the word terrorism. It seems to be terrorism to me. It is what it is.
If this, he had mental health issues, considering everything that you're seeing there, what he was yelling, what he looked like, that he stuck around for that arrest. So all of this, hopefully more information at least coming out at this court appearance later today.
Obviously, we're standing by for that. A lot more to learn, but just a horrifying scene there in Boulder. Brent.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing that I'm glad is not happening is, can you imagine if an organized group of attackers, say like 2 or 3 attackers who were determined to remain anonymous and not be captured, planned out attacks? This country would be completely unprepared for that. Like, if 2 or 3 determined attackers who wanted to go in and just do an attack and not be captured and try to escape, they would likely succeed. So that's what I'm worried about happening. I'm worried about the next step up, which is like a permanent group which is determined to do continual attacks and sabotage forming, because I think that could cause a real panic in this country. That's what I'm worried about. Like, the attackers so far have been like seemingly made an attack, kind of mentally unhealthy. They made an attack and then they allowed themselves to get captured and to, make a political message, as opposed to people that were determined to just do damage and harm to their enemies. Witnesses are saying there are multiple attackers. Witnesses are usually pretty unreliable as far as like witness testimony, things like that. Like Weather Underground, exactly, Pakistani. That's what I'm describing. Like, if people were determined to do damage and not get caught, that's where the crackdown would really happen. That's what I'm scared about. So I hope the war ends quickly before that can happen.
And so much of it caught on video as it was playing out. Joining us right now is CNN senior national security analyst Juliette Kayyem. Juliette, what do you see in this attack? So many eyewitnesses, so many different angles, so many people were there at this moment, a very busy time of day on a very busy street in Boulder when all of this happened.
That's exactly right. So in terms of the court case or cases ahead, there's a lot of evidence already in place in terms of what he did, what he said in terms of Free Palestine, which gets to his anti-Semitic motivation, and then what was happening and what he was trying to do.
Okay, it's so weird to call it anti-Semitic. Call it what it is, anti-Zionist, anti-Israel.
Over the course of those minutes, because we heard eyewitness reports that there were more Molotov cocktails. What we don't know is he speaking right now? And we also don't know his previous criminal history. Has he had engagement with police before? What we know about him now is there's tremendous gaps in his narrative. In 2005, he seeks asylum, he's denied. At some stage, he re-enters under a tourism visa, and which is a lawful visa, but then if it's an overstay, then you're unlawful. So he's an unlawful, illegal immigrant residing in Colorado, it seems. So that gap in time in terms of what he's doing, does he have contacts with others? His radicalization process, mental health issues are all going to come into play in both a federal case, and Colorado does have a hate crime statute, so there could be add-on state case as well.
And in terms of what happens now with the investigation, I mean, what do you still want to know? And you're talking about the gaps in his criminal history, but what else as they move forward with this?
So the most important thing is, was he with others or motivated for this? Anti-Semitism and the attacks on the Jewish community here in the United States are prevalent. We saw a horrific one as well 2 weeks ago against the Israeli diplomats who were assassinated. And so was this motivated by a group or group membership? Or was it sort of an individualized radicalization? He's upset with what's going on in Israel and Gaza. And so understanding that will then give us a sense of what is the atmosphere, what's the sort of coalition behind him. The second is the Molotov cocktail. Look, these are relatively easy to make, but these are not guns, which in Colorado, as we know, are relatively easy to get. I'm very curious when I heard this sort of, what made him think, what was it about the Molotov cocktail? How did he learn to, how did he make three? I think that's a sort of the means is a very important point. That's to the specific case. The larger case, which has to be addressed, of course, is rising or consistent, I would say, anti-Semitism and attacks on the Jewish community. That's not going to be solved by a single case. Certainly we want.
I think one of the things that's really interesting is this is kind of like a prosecutorial mentality, which is to try to reduce something like bomb to elements, to descriptive elements, and be like, haha, it technically fulfills it. And then I can use the word bomb and it's like, it's a jar with fucking gas in it. Like, it's not exactly, this isn't a fucking sophisticated C4 explosive made by, Mission Impossible agents. It's a guy pouring gasoline into a jar. I read her Wikipedia, added a section on her spooky work history. Wait, what?
Prosecute him to the full extent of the law, but there's larger issues that we have to address as a nation.
100%. Juliet, thank you so much for jumping on this morning. Much more to learn here. I really appreciate it.
All right, joining me now is Jason Pack, a retired FBI supervisory special agent. Jason, we appreciate you being here with us this morning. As someone who has spent over 2 decades in the FBI, what would you say is the number one thing the investigation is focused on right now?
Good morning, Rahel. I think the number one thing the investigation is focusing on is making sure there's nobody else complicit in this conspiracy. So while the public looking or public facing portion of this investigation is just getting underway with that incident concluding yesterday, the FBI is going to be teaming up with the Colorado authorities there to kind of retrace what happened. Where did they buy the components for the Molotov cocktails? How did the makeshift flamethrower get built, and just reverse engineering all of this? I'm certain that they'll have their lab folks.
Okay, he had like a spray bottle and he lit it with a lighter. Is that it?
Quantico, the explosives unit, come assist the evidence response team and the Colorado authorities there.
Wait, what? Did someone do something super anti-Semitic in chat? Somebody said something anti-Semitic, a gray name, probably an Asmongold viewer. Fuck, where is it? Damn. Oh yeah, this is definitely an Asmongold viewer. Oh yeah, this is 100% an Asmongold viewer. Super glad he got a Holocaust survivor. Person needs to relieve that for F them Israel supporters. Damn, Trump's win, single-handedly moving the markets and largest post-election gains in history of stock market. F Trump. But it's so funny when right-wingers try to pretend that they're like secret leftists. Okay. Thanks, buddy. I should just gotta report this guy and get him perma-banned from Twitch. Fucking dumb people. What's that like following? What's the following this guy's follow list? Stay Safe TV. Stay Safe fan. The rare Stay Safe fan. Wait, did I miss? Oh, there he is. Wow, you made quite the political movement. Asmongold and Stay Safe and Zach. Then suddenly you found Hassan. Let's see here. Likes the OTK girlies. And then suddenly decided to follow all the left wingers. Wow, so weird. He loves it. He amazing. Stay Safe fan. It's very funny when right wingers try to do this op where they pretend to be left wing. You know what I mean, chat? I have spent over $100,000 in mobile games since 2017. Hit me up in chat if you want to chat about it. Soy right. Can we tag this soy right? Can we tag this soy right? Hashtag soy right chatter. Anti-vax. His very first post was anti-vax. Oh, wait, we're finding more things.
Switch our pet out. Bring in our Thakwa here.
Like, legitimately, if I was this guy, like, I don't want to advocate self-harm, but they're like, at all. I don't want to advocate self-harm at all. But for me personally, like, I do think that there's certain ways of being that if I were suddenly transported into them, it would be very hard for me to accept. Kick recruiting a sex pest during Pride Month is so brave. Yeah. I can't spell chat. What do you mean on their way out? Who said they would stop Twitch streaming? Basically, whenever somebody's like, I'm multi-streaming to Twitch, it's because they're trying to move their Twitch community over to Kick, and they're gonna do violating behaviors on Twitch until they get banned. Did I say creditable? Credible. There we go. Credible. Credible. Okay, we can say, we can spell. We can spell. We can spell. All right. All right. Let's keep going. Sorry for the soy right. Can someone clip that? Can we talk about, I want to start talking about the soy right. Somebody needs to start exposing the soy right, because there's nothing, what's so funny about the soy right is they're so used to being on offense and nobody ever turning the mirror on them, right? Like, they want to pick over your life to try to find whatever, like, embarrassing or just outright make up lies about people that they don't like, and nobody turns the mirror right back at them. Look at Tectone. Look at Asmongold. They're fucking sex criminal freaks. They are rats that live in filth. I don't know if Asmongold, I don't think Asmongold has any accusations against him, just to be clear. The soy right, are fucking disgusting. And we need to start talking about them more.
It's been kind of a long night for them while you've been sleeping and America's been sleeping. Investigators overnight are still putting together a digital footprint of social media acquaintances, and in the real world also physical acquaintances. So there's been a lot of work going on since this incident.
And that the suspects reportedly used this makeshift flamethrower. What does that say to you in terms of the level of premeditation here?
It seems like you have to plan that a little bit.
Make the soy right mauled by Schilling. You have a hype train. Oh shit, we do. Subscribe.
Get a flamethrower anywhere. You have to think about how to make one. It's not like
God, this coverage is dog. Okay, this coverage is boring as fuck. Honestly, I gotta be honest. I don't really feel like these are having the impact in the news cycle that you would suspect. I don't think people really give. Like, they're not really overreacting to this stuff. They're going like, this is an obviously criminal attack. What is this? Chat, Vio has given me some sort of naan with figs on it. There's like figs on it and like goat cheese, maybe? Ricotta, okay. There's a lot of figs on there. And blueberries. All right, I'll have to try that. This country is so rotted with individual acts of violence that from the mentally ill that it's just another one to shrug at. Yeah, I actually think that's what's happening. You're so real for not calling it naan bread. It's like saying chai tea. Chai means tea, naan means bread. Why would I say naan bread? It's like saying Coke soda. Like, we already know it's soda. You said Coke. Gobby the Trash Goblin and Krillax. Thank you for the prime. People say soda pop. You mean golems in the shape of people? I'm like looking at the MSNBC coverage of this. And it's just like...
That, though, we have breaking news. In Colorado, a man is in custody this morning after authorities say he attacked a group of people in Boulder using a makeshift flamethrower while shouting, "Free Palestine." The group was attacked as members were marching for awareness of Israeli hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza. 8 people injured, with the worst in critical condition. Authorities say they're investigating the assault as an attack of terrorism, an act of terrorism.
When this call came out today, our officers rushed as quickly as they could somewhere close to the area, and they immediately ran into a chaotic situation where a man was throwing Molotov cocktails and using other devices to hurt people. Our officers, as they're trained, immediately interacted with the suspect, took him into custody, and then began rendering aid. to those victims.
According to Boulder police booking reports, the suspect has been charged with first-degree murder, among other offenses. We are currently seeking clarification from authorities since police have not publicly said anyone died following the attack. Let's go right to Boulder and NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky. Morgan, what's the latest on the injured, and are police saying anything more about a motive here?
Yeah, they're digging into that. Joe, Mika, good morning. And a tragic morning here in Boulder. We know as for those 8 victims injured in this horrific attack, they range in age from 52 years old to 88 years old. And authorities have said that there are 4 men and 4 women, all of whom were taken to nearby hospitals to undergo treatment. We do believe at least one of those victims is in critical condition. The injuries are primarily significant and severe burns as a result of what this lone suspect, 45-year-old Mohammed Solomon, was using. And authorities say it was a makeshift flamethrower combined with some incendiary devices they describe as Molotov cocktails. A combination of those 2 items is what he approached the group here that was gathering near this popular outdoor mall in Boulder to take part in a weekly peaceful rally that they hold every Sunday afternoon to essentially honor the hostages that remain in Gaza. And this broke out around 1:26 p.m. when the first 911 calls went out. And authorities say that they...
I think most of the people remaining in Gaza right now are literally soldiers. They're literally soldiers captured in combat. I don't really think calling them hostages is correct. I think that if you're like... if you're in combat with and you're wearing a uniform, you're a POW. Especially if you're occupying or you're enforcing a blockade.
Arrived, and it was a chaotic scene with multiple people suffering significant burns, and this suspect walking around carrying bottles filled with some sort of unknown liquid, shouting at them, antagonizing them. Fortunately, bystanders were able to treat multiple victims on the ground until authorities could move in and take that suspect into custody. As you mentioned, Mika, he does face murder charges in addition to a litany of others, and he is in custody as of right now, but his motive...
I mean, he'll face attempted murder charges, right? Like, it's not... There's no confusion there.
As investigators try to dig into his social media history, still remains unclear at this hour. Mika?
NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky in Boulder, Colorado. Thank you very much. We'll be following that.
Well, I mean, I would be surprised if we don't find out. This person, again, it sounds like terrorism to me. You look at what's happened over the past couple of weeks. It's just absolutely sickening. You look at the young couple who was engaged, a Jewish couple who were slaughtered last week in
Washington. He wasn't Jewish. He wasn't Jewish. Like, what are you doing? Why are you lying about facts? He was a German Christian man, and they weren't engaged. Neither one of those things are true. Now, some embassy officials said he looked for a ring, which I don't believe them. I'll be honest with you. I don't believe them. They're just cooking up a story. They're liars, and they like lying. So I don't believe them. They weren't engaged, and he wasn't Jewish. That's lying.
Washington, D.C., and now here
and
you
it's
have
easily
seniors
provable
that
lies.
are marching
By the way,
to
chat,
remember.
By the way, chat, the reason why they do the provable lies, just so you guys understand, the reason why they do the provable lies is because it's a shibboleth to other Zionists. So you lie, you make all these little, small little lies, and anybody who corrects your lies, you know they're not on the pro-Israel team, right? That's all it's for. It's so that people like me go like, why are you lying about that? That's a weird thing to lie about. He was still murdered. He was a German Christian immigrant to Israel who worked in the embassy. He wasn't Jewish. They were not engaged. He had a ring, which is not true. As far as I haven't seen the ring. I don't believe Israel. Okay, maybe they were a couple. That's all we could confirm. I don't believe Israel. I don't believe the Israeli-American ambassador's story. They like to lie. And the reason why they're lying is they're trying to conflate anti-Zionist with anti-Semitism. Because Americans, on the whole, hate bigotry. The 65% of Americans hate bigotry, or they don't like it. 35% are racist. And so they're trying to win over libs because you can't get a majority by doing Zionist Jewish supremacist logic, like arguing that Arabs are inferior or whatever they want to do. Like, you're never going to get a majority of Americans to go along with that. So they have to create these fucking stories to get majority support. But here's the reality. Here's the reality. You just make yourself look even more unreliable, you fucking... Your Hasbara technology is so out of date. Why would he discuss the rig purchase with the leader of the Israeli embassy? Because he's lying?
Hostages that have been taken, brutalized, some raped, savaged by Hamas terrorists. And you have senior citizens that are out marching simply in Boulder, Colorado to remember those who are still being held hostage by the terror group Hamas and by other terror groups. And they are attacked. They're savage. It is. If this isn't an act of terrorism, I don't know what is. We'll see what happens moving forward with the FBI and the investigation.
All right, another.
It's so crazy. You have an instance of violence, and you just use it as an excuse to lie. That's crazy.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. You know, the more people find out about what Trump's been calling the big, beautiful bill, the less they like it.
Joining us now is Shira Weiss, the volunteer global administrator of Run for Their Lives, the group that was targeted just yesterday. She's also an NBC Universal colleague in our parent company's agency partnership team. Shira, I'm sorry we're talking under these circumstances. How's your team doing this morning, and how are you grappling with what's happened?
Thank you so much for having me this morning. Yes, it's extremely devastating and disheartening to hear that one of our local communities in Boulder, Colorado, had this violent attack happen to them. Our thoughts and prayers are with them and the victims, and we're hoping for a speedy recovery for everybody.
Can you tell us more about the event that was taking place, the people who were participating in your group's mission?
Yes, so Run for Their Lives is a global mission. We were founded on October 15th, 2023, with the sole purpose of raising awareness for all of the hostages that were taken on October 7th. We're an apolitical organization. We strongly believe that this is an international humanitarian crisis, as different religions and ethnicities and nationalities were taken hostage. We always aim for the walks to be peaceful, nonviolent, and really as a means to just raise awareness to the situation. 58 people have been held hostage now for 605 days, and we will continue to raise awareness until they're all brought home.
We have talked about how there's been a rise over the past few years, frankly, of anti-Semitic crimes and violence. Had this Boulder chapter ever been threatened before, do you know?
No, not to my knowledge. This is the first violent attack on any of our groups. We have over 230 groups worldwide. This is the first time anything like this has happened. In the past, there might have been, some heckling or some verbal comments made to different groups, but never anything to this particular level.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard to imagine really anything like this happening to your group. Is there anything you do as an organization to prepare for potential acts of violence?
We always tell our group leaders that safety is our utmost concern and responsibility. So some of our groups do have police escort that do walk with them regularly. Some of them have private security. But again, we really lean on our local leaders to determine whether or not there's a need for security, depending on what's happening in their community. We've never really had to have any security concerns to this regard. Moving forward into next week, we've again are leaning on our community leaders and asking them to determine what is the best course of action moving forward.
Do you know what kind of security presence was there on scene for this particular event?
I know that the local police authority was informed. They're informed every week when they go out for a walk, just to let them know that it's happening. But that's the extent of it.
At this point, do you feel like you can continue to hold these types of demonstrations? Does this change your plans at all moving forward?
Not for me personally, no. I lead my own walk in my own community, but again, it's hard to you know, people are going to react to this differently, and they need the space and the time to react to it. So we don't want to put that onus on anybody, but the leaders of the different groups. Myself personally, no, it's not going to deter me. But again, it depends on the local leaders in the community and how safe they feel.
And I'm sure everybody's still processing what has happened. Shira Weiss, thank you very much for taking the time. We wish you and all of your team members the very, very best.
Thank you so much.
No awareness for the thousands of Palestinians held at Israeli prison with no due process sounds pretty political. I think that if you are looking at the war on Gaza, the genocide that's being perpetrated, and your number one priority are the soldiers that have been captured by Hamas when their bases were overrun on October 7th, that's batshit crazy. Like, that's batshit crazy. Now, I would like to see all prisoners on both sides of the line released. All detainees, all prisoners of war. But if your focus is on the soldiers who were defeated in combat and surrendered to Hamas, that's, while children are starving, that's fucking batshit crazy.
Oh, would you look at the time? The mass baby killers are playing victim again. The child targeters, yep, they're playing victim again. The mass anal rapists, oh yeah, you bet they're playing victim again. The hospital bombers are playing victim again. The doctor slayers, oh yeah, they're bitching. The aid worker massacrists, oh, they're crying real tears right now. The school liquidators, oh yeah, they're playing victim right now. The museum maulers, oh, they are moaning. The mosque and church destroyers, they can't stop whining. The pedophile haven country people, they're playing victim again. The right to rape protest people, yeah, you bet they're playing victim again. The ethnic cleansers are playing victim again. The genociders are playing victim again. Let them cry their crocodile tears like every single time this happens. Rather than performatively denouncing it, rather than trying to save your own skin by appeasing them, just send them this video instead. When they cry their little crocodile tears, you laugh at them. Because you can bet in the last 5 minutes, they've killed at least one baby. Possibly more. Cry, cry, cry your crocodile tears, Zionists. That doesn't work anymore. We know what you are.
He made a Hutch video? I might have to become a member. I can't believe I'm not a Bad Empanada member. What am I doing? I just don't give money to YouTube. Yes! I love Bad Empanada. I wish Bad Empanada, I think he has the wrong sense of what I think. I think a lot of people have the wrong sense of what I think about things, which sucks, but it is what it is.
Stop genocide. Free Palestine. Stop genocide.
집단학살 도구가 돼선 안 되는데 계속 지금 안 되고.
Free Palestine.
Genocide is not welcome here.
You're complicit in genocide. You're complicit in genocide. And you know that. You're not talking right now because you know that we're lying.
Hey, listen. We're police officer. Get out.
We're just talking.
We are here in restaurant.
Yes, but we're just talking.
You're offending the ambassador. No. Get out.
It's so weird that Koreans, it's so weird that Irish, it's so weird that South Africa, all victims of imperialism, all victims of colonization, all hate Israel. It's so weird. Those countries can all see what Israel is doing. And every single one of them recognizes it for what it is. Even Japan, even the Japanese. What did the assbold snitch to the FBI about? Oh, God. Holy shit. Did you guys see? Oh, my God. I want to show you a video about, that's our China glaze. I was going to show you this during China glaze, but I forgot. So we're going to go back to China glazing for a minute. I watched it yesterday and it made me laugh my ass off. So I wanted to show you guys. Apparently China's aircraft and missiles are like significantly better than Western and analysts thought, because the Pakistanis were fucking lighting up European and Western aircraft.
This video is brought to you by War Thunder.
play with me this weekend? Details in the description.
And apparently, like, Indian
How does a
nationalists have
country
been
that-
mass reporting all videos about this topic on YouTube, which is very funny. Like, their Air Force got fucking humiliated by the Pakistanis using Chinese weapons.
Once reverse-engineered Soviet aircraft end up building something this agile, this advanced, this bold. Is this a warning shot across the Pacific, or just Beijing showing off its engineering glow-up? Was the J-10 really born from Chinese ingenuity, or is there a skeleton or two in its design closet? Maybe even wearing
Did they steal
an
it from
Israeli
Israel?
flag. Today we're flying high with a jet that's been underestimated, underpowered, and under the radar. A fighter that went from meh to wait, it did what? Because here's the thing, when a nation builds a jet that can rival anyone and sells it at a price that makes even the Russians break into a cold sweat, it deserves a closer look. Welcome to the story of the vigorous
G,
draft.
I want to fly a J-10. Come on, G. G, please put me through your fighter school. I will form the American 5th column domestic fighter squadron. Please, G. Please, G.
Again, something that just might make you rethink everything you thought you knew about Chinese air power. It's 1981 and the Cold War is heating up yet again, and China's Air Force is stuck flying J-7s
You
and
can't handle those
J-8s.
Gs? I've been handling those Gs since I was in utero, bitch.
Which are basically knockoffs of 1950s Soviet jets. Oh boy, this is just embarrassing.
By the way, this is
so
fucking
the
good.
PLAAF commander, whose
Theo hit
name
it out of
I'm
the
not
park
going to try
again.
and pronounce on this channel, goes to his higher-ups with a bold request. A new next-generation fighter jet. Something that's not imported and something that's not copied. Built in China from scratch. And shockingly, he gets the green light and 500 million yuan to kick it off. 3 companies submit ideas. Shenyang offers a F-16 style jet, while Hongdu pushes for a MiG-23 clone. But it's the Chengdu Aircraft Design Institute that wins with a bold delta wing design. Equipped with canards, it's very reminiscent of Sweden's Saab Viggen. But you see, despite what many people think, that China simply copied the European delta wing plus canards design, this wasn't really the case. It was Chengdu that previously developed an aircraft designated as J9, a double delta plus canard single engine fighter that should have replaced the J7 back in the day, but it was cancelled in the 1980s. So when the next generation fighter was finally approved to be developed by Chengdu, the bones of a previously cancelled J9 project found a new life. And a hero jet has a hero engineer. Leading the charge was the engineer Song Wen-kong, a man who would go down as a legend in Chinese aviation. Their goal was simple: build China's first true modern fighter with cutting-edge aerodynamics, fly-by-wire controls, and their own engine, the WS-10.
Oh, that's really cool,
But this
Palsy.
dream
Remind me to show
would
this
face
on
hurdle
stream.
after hurdle. By the late 80s, development stalled. Funding had dried up, political priorities had shifted, and China was in a crisis. Then, in 1991, the Gulf War shocked the Chinese military leaders because American F-15s and F-16s were dominating Iraqi airspace. Suddenly, China's outdated jets seemed hopeless. To bridge the gap, the Chinese bought Soviet-made Su-27s, but soon enough, they also got the license to build them at home. And Shenyang, the other imported Chinese aircraft builder, was behind this task. Meanwhile, with renewed political capital, development of the J-10 surged again. A full-scale mock-up was built around 1991, but there was a massive problem. The WS-10 Miracle engine didn't work at all. It was unreliable, underpowered, and years behind schedule. The team would then turn to Russia and buy the AL-31FN engine, the same ones that were being used in the Su-27, which would then be interchangeable for the J-11 as well. but this would change the jet's design. Engineers would need to redesign the airflow inlets, strengthen the airframe, and alter internal systems to accommodate this new Russian engine. Something that the engineers were able to do remarkably fast. So remarkably fast that, and now folks, this is where you have to put on your tinfoil hats, we need to investigate a curious theory that China's J-10 might be based on Israel's Lavi fighter. The Lavi, cancelled in 1987, was a single-engine Delta Canard jet funded by the Israelis to finally build their own fighter plane. And its
which they did not do.
Resemblance to the J-10 is striking. Whilst there's no hard evidence of tech transfer, some analysts suggest that China may have received blueprints or guidance via intermediaries, if not straight spycraft. However, it is known that an Israeli delegation visited China in 1986 and discussed weapon sales and a transfer of technologies. The Chinese...
By the way, chat, we call this, ladies and gentlemen, cope. The plane is a significantly different design with a different engine. So they call this cope.
Impressed with the IDF performance during the 1982 Lebanon War, negotiated a license to build Israeli Python 3 missiles in the same time frame. So it's not a far-fetched idea to think that the Israelis wanted to make a buck or two off their cancelled fighter program if they had an opportunity. They had all the blueprints and designs sitting around and were en route to get brand new American fighters, so why not just sell all of your hard work? Chengdu's designers deny this, of course, and Chinese officials argue that the similarities are natural for any aircraft chasing the same performance envelope, and that the J-10 is primarily an iteration of China's earlier J-9 effort. Which, of course, is sort of plausible, but hey, just look at these two side by side.
Guys, they both have canards.
And of course, in the early 90s, China wasn't really the inventor.
It's like a completely different jet. You can see like larger, like it's a completely different jet. There's really nothing more to say. Like even the Delta wing shape, it's tapered on this one. It's a shorter plane. This one has large conformal fuel tanks. This has, it has a pylon for mid-air refueling. Like it's a completely fucking different plane. Like the position of the canards is different, the shape of the wing is different, the engine is different. It's a different fucking jet. I don't know what else to say.
It is in 2025. Rather, they were a follower. I bet watching this video today, you want to test this aircraft yourself against other aircraft players.
No, I don't.
1998. After nearly 2 decades of trials and redesigns, the prototype 10,001 lifts off the runway in Sushan.
By the way, the reason why this is relevant and important, if you're like, Mike, are you just doing a plain autism right now? The answer is no. This is related to politics. So the J-10 is basically China's like domestically produced fighter jet. It's their first one. And because of that, a lot of people kind of, especially the West, discounted it as not being a very effective modern jet in combat. Okay. And what has happened is this is probably one of the most inexpensive fighter jets to be purchased in the world right now. And what happened is Pakistan oftentimes worked with China to counterbalance India. So Pakistan and China are friendly, whereas India and China are enemies. And so China sold these jets to Pakistan. And in the most recent cross-border skirmishes, it appears that the Pakistani Air Force utterly humiliated and fucked up the Indian Air Force, which is made up primarily of American and European jets.
Pilot Li Qiang makes the first flight. The sleek, pale jet with its distinct Delta Canard silhouette cuts through the Chinese sky. This moment isn't just a test flight, it's a national milestone. For the first time, China had built a 4th-generation fighter capable of challenging its global peers. The J-10A entered service officially in 2004 and became operational in 2006, with the factories going on to churn out over 150 units of this early production model. These jets would go on to form the backbone of China's single-engine fighter fleet throughout the 2000s. They're fast, agile, and packed with modern sensors and avionics. Or are they? Because at first, the J-10 was really a mixed bag. It was still missing advanced electronics, advanced missiles, and precision air-to-ground weapons. But as China as a country started developing rapidly in the 21st century, the development of military hardware followed closely. Before the thunder came the whisper. While the J-10A was a respectable proof of concept, China knew that it wasn't enough. The world was moving on, and so was the competition. Thus, the fighter didn't shout about a revolution, but quietly rewrote the rules of what a Chinese jet could be. Unveiled in 2008, but entering service only 5 years later, the J-10B was the bridge between old-school design and modern aerospace thinking. At first glance, the changes seem modest until you look closer. Now, this next part's going to be jargon deep, but you really need to understand why the J-10B
I know
was
all the
such a
jargon. I'll translate, chat.
game changer. The most eye-catching upgrade was a new diverterless supersonic inlet that replaced the older rectangular intake with a boundary layer diverter, which sounds like a whole bunch of jargon, but this wasn't just for style, because the DSI intakes reduced its radar cross-section, simplifying the airframe by eliminating moving parts and improved airflow at high speeds, making this thing stealthier and much faster.
Mike, what was your dad's call sign? You want me to tell you? Oh man, I feel like a man's call sign is his and his alone. Like he only shares it with people that he wants to share it with. I don't think that you guys should hear my dad's call sign unless he wants you to hear it. I mean, I feel like that's, I could ask him if he cares, but I don't want to like dox his ass, you know? What would your call sign be? You don't pick your call sign. Your squad makes pick your call sign.
It was a clear sign that the Chinese aerodynamics were catching up with the West. And up front, the radar dome was reshaped, accommodating what is believed to be an active or passive electronically scanning radar array, likely the KLJ-3A, which is a huge leap from the mechanically scanned radar of the J-10A. This has given the jet sharper eyes and better tracking for multiple targets, a must in modern air combat. And what I'm trying to get here, guys, is this jet may look old-fashioned, but inside, it's got some technology that will make it go toe-to-toe with the West. The J-10B also introduced a glass cockpit, digital displays, and improved HOTAS controls. The jet became a platform where a pilot workload was reduced and situational awareness was now finally a thing. The J-10B also began integrating more modern Chinese weapons. It could now fire the PL-12 Beyond Visual Range missile, and it was also equipped for precision strike missions with satellite-guided bombs and laser-guided munitions. For the first time, the J-10 wasn't just a fighter, it was a multi-role machine. And while the engine was still the trusty AL-31 from Russia, yes, that saga continues, the J-10B was designed with the WS-10 in mind. Yeah.
So like all this stuff, Beyond Visual Range missile is basically the frontier of weapons where you fire a missile before you could see the enemy based purely on radar, and the missile goes beyond visual range to shoot it down. What else do you guys need translated?
And integrating more modern Chinese weapons. It could now fire the PL-12 Beyond Visual Range missile, and it was also equipped for precision strike missions with satellite-guided bombs and laser-guided munitions. For the first time,
Cockpit is that's my nickname for your mother.
The J-10 wasn't just a fighter, it was a multi-role machine. And while the engine was still the trusty AL-31 from Russia, yes, that saga continues, the J-10B was designed with the WS-10 in mind. Yes, the same Chinese jet that up to this point still didn't work. The plan always was to drop the Russian tech, it just took a little bit longer than expected. And here's the huge twist in the story. Despite all of this, very few J-10Bs were ever produced by the Chinese. Why? Because the B was sort of a testbed, a stepping stone. It let China work out all of the bugs in its new radar, air intake, and cockpit systems before mass producing the even more advanced J-10. And once the J-10...
By the way, chat, if you're not aware of like airplane procurement and development, you may be like, oh, they're developing it and they're deploying it every 5 years? That's fucking insane. It takes the US 20 years to do anything that they're doing. They are doing shit. They are iterating and rebuilding and redeveloping stuff at a rate that's like 5 times faster than we can.
J-10B proved that China could almost build a modern jet. It was time for the C version to take flight and claim the spotlight. The J-10C is the latest and greatest from the J-10 family and was first flown in 2013, entering service 3 years later. So it's a pretty new aeroplane. And after years of struggling, the Chinese finally made a good AESA radar called the KLJ-10A and featured it on the J-10C. You see, right about the same time, the Chinese started implementing various AESA radars on their aircraft, such as the J-16, J-11D, and J-15. And China started fielding new missiles as well, such as the short-range PL-10, comparable in performance to the AIM-9X. And whilst we mentioned that it could carry the aforementioned PL-12, the Chinese AMRAAM, the Americans woke up one day to a shock. The J-10's most fearsome bite would come from the PL-15, a new long-range active radar-guided missile with a range of over 200 kilometers.
Which is more than anything we have.
With AESA seeker radar and data link mid-course correction, it's one of the most dangerous BVR weapons flying today. It even outmatches the American AIM-120D in some key metrics and rivals Europe's Meteor missiles, really leaving a lot of Western commentators to scratch their heads and wonder, where did China come up with this? A plethora of air-to-ground weapons and targeting pods have also been developed over the years, so the J-10C became a true modern multi-role fighter that could, at least in theory, take on any opponent. So what's the catch? Why did nobody want this jet if it was so good?
Because China doesn't fight a bunch of wars, so nobody could see it in action. Nobody could see the Chinese jet bombing a bunch of kids, so they didn't buy it. Only the people that were very price conscious.
One word, the engine. Remember that engine that they were developing, the WS-10? Well, all this time, J-10s flew with those Russian-made engines, and when it came to exporting this new amazing J-10Cs, the Russians would say no, because the J-10C could endanger their own aircraft with Russian engines. So the J-10C was stuck until they could finally start flying with domestic engines called the WS-10B. But these really aren't great as well. Even though they match their Russian counterparts when it came to thrust, the service life of 1,500 hours up to 2,400 hours is rather poor compared to the Western counterpart. But now with these engine shenanigans over, the Pakistanis, a traditional buyer of Chinese weapons, were allowed to buy that domestic version and order the J-10C in its export CE variant.
There you have
and then
it,
enjoy
chat.
exercise with
That was a
Thailand.
Pakistani J-10 right there. See? You can see the Pakistan flag.
Variant. And then in joint exercise with Thailand, J-10Cs proved to be more effective than Thai Gripens, and supposedly won simulated battles against the JAS-39. Then it outperformed the People's Liberation Army Air Force Su-35s in a simulated BVR combat exercise, proving its technological supremacy with its new radar and the new missiles. Holy cow, so now it's even beating the Russian jets. It was time for the J-10 to shine on the market, but unexpectedly, in 2025, Chengdu got something even better. May 2025. Tensions flare at the line of control in the disputed Kashmir region. A high-intensity air clash breaks out between India and Pakistan. This time, Pakistani J-10Cs take to the skies and armed to the teeth. Reports from Islamabad claim J-10s armed with PL-15s downed multiple Indian aircraft, including a MiG-29 and, more controversially, a French Rafale. India denies it, but PL-15 debris is photographed and analysed on Indian territory, so they definitely fired the missile and a jet definitely crashed. And photographed here are the remains of at least one Rafale, a Mirage, and a MiG-29. And the rest is history. For the first time, the vigorous Dragon has drawn blood. Whether or not a J-10 shot down one jet or more, and whether or not it was a European or a Russian, the fact remains. China now has real-world combat data on its jet and its powerful missile. And that, my friends, is priceless. Some Western analysis now openly question how India, or even Taiwan, would fare against squadrons of J-10Cs, supported by AWACS and integrated into radar networks. Not to mention the latest 5th-gen jets like the J-20 also leading the charge. And this has made the world take notice. Egypt has now supposedly shown interest in buying the J-10CE as well, even before recent events. And what makes the J-10 attractive is not only its performance or its combat record, but its price as well. Pakistan paid only around $75 million per aircraft in a full package, which is significantly cheaper than any other options on the market. With the war in Ukraine turning a lot of traditional buyers of Russian weaponry elsewhere, the J-10 and China can take a significant share of the market. Today, over 350 J-10s serve in the Chinese Air Force and the Chinese Navy. It's a workhorse, a stepping stone, an evolution. It's not a stealth fighter like the J-20, and it's not heavy-hitting as the J-16, but it's the fighter that taught China how to build jets on par with the West. Its amazing radar, its networked avionics, and its next-gen missiles make it formidable, and it's still evolving.
So it was 75 million each. U.S. approved sale of 20 F-16 fighter jets worth $5.58 billion to the Philippines. Yikes. So that's 279 million each. What do you think is going to do better? Just hypothetically, chat. I mean, that means that for the same price, you could have 80, roughly 80 J-10s. 80 J-10s or 20 F-16s. Who do you think is going to win that? They are absolutely fucking cooked.
The variants may include confirmable fuel tanks, new electronic warfare suites, and even integrated with drones in a 2-seater variant. The J-10 doesn't breathe literal fire like its name, the Dragon, but when it launches a PL-15 beyond the horizon, that Dragon's roar isn't just noise, it's a statement. China no longer imitates, it innovates. And every time a J-10 takes off, the world takes notice. But before you go today,
this is like, I think people really underestimate the value of quantity. Now, like, the US could have had a similar program. It was called the F-20. The F-20 was like 95% of the capabilities of the F-16 for 50% of the price or 60% of the price. The US always goes for Wunderwaffe. Because our military is so heavily influenced by Nazi Germany, we tend to overpay and over-engineer, right? And we try to go for qualitative supremacy. Whereas when we fought the Germans, we used good enough and overwhelming numbers to defeat them. And so China is going to absolutely dog walk the United States in any war. It would be an embarrassing failure.
Go to check out today's sponsor, War Thunder, and blow up some tanks with me this weekend.
And like that's the reality that we're facing, which is the United States massively overpays. And by the way, the F-16 is not that good. It's not that impressive.
All of it is fake news. This is part of Pakistan's psychological warfare. Their ministers are also part of this effort. They're going on foreign channels and they're all making false claims. Sometimes they say 5 Indian jets were shot down. Sometimes they say only 3 were shot down. But none of these claims make sense.
जिन्होंने इंडियन राफेल गिराए हैं वो फ्रेंच हमारे जो थे वो J-10C थे.
Holy smokes, India and Pakistan just went from zero to full-on regional warfare in a hot minute. India thought they'd flex on Pakistan with some military action, but instead got 6 aircraft blown out of the sky overnight. Talk about a reality check.
What are you linking me, chat? What the fuck are you linking me? All right, we'll move on from aircraft autism. Everybody's more interested in something else. You guys want me to talk about the drama slop. You guys want me to talk about the drama slot. So basically, Asmongold is trying to use the FBI because he's too scared to debate. Oh, man. It's so funny to see. Hold on. Holy shit. He's such a little bitch. Mike, talk about the attack on Russian planes. Why? Why? This is much funnier. Hold on. Hold on. Fuck, I have to find Asmongold. I didn't pull it up. I thought I did, but I didn't. Hold on. Why does his banner still say OTK? Didn't he leave? Didn't he lead? By the way, is OTK still around? I thought he left. He told me to remind you to show this on stream. Oh yeah. Apparently the fighter didn't say free Palestine. He said fuck you, kid killer.
Free Palestine! McCrory addressing his fans at K-side. Big elbows from McCrory. And it's over. Yeah, big end to the third round. Free Palestine! McCrory.
It's anti-Semitic for the MMA to pair Israeli fighters with real men like Irish MMA fighter Paddy McCrory, who beat the living hell out of Israeli fighter Shuki Faraj while shouting free Palestine in his face. Shuki Faraj was expecting Palestinian women and babies. Damn. Oh, that's so good. All right, hold on. Okay, we're finding Asmongoldian content. Hold on. The fuck? I just had it. Hold on, as I find it, watch this.
Hello from China. So I'm in a grocery store right now, and I wanted to show you how the American tariffs are affecting Chinese customers. So I was gonna get some beef for dinner tonight, and I saw this. So what used to be here is American beef, but now, as you can see, it says Australian beef. And I did look around. I couldn't find one single pack of beef from America. So I guess China just stopped buying beef from America, and it went straight to Australia. So the whole idea that China is hurting because of the American tariffs, well, they're not, because they're not as dependent on the US. In fact, only 18% of Chinese imports come from America. And for stuff like beef and soy, they can just go somewhere else easily. So I guess I'm having Australian beef for dinner tonight instead of American beef. And honestly, because of the food quality, I probably trust Australian beef better. And this box of beef right here is 50 RMB, which is about $7 US. So to answer the question, China and
holy shit, it's like $19 a pound in the US.
Hurting. And if anything, I think we're probably doing even better because now that we are better beef that tastes better and at a better price. So thank you, Trump, for that.
All right, I found it, chat. We are aware of and fully investigating a targeted terror attack in Boulder, Colorado. Our agents and local law enforcement are on the scene already, and we will share updates as more information becomes available at FBI. Y'all really need to get on top of some of these people online. They promote this shit and nothing ever happens to them. Reddit, TikTok, etc. Rationalizations for violence like this are everywhere online. Okay, first of all, we condemn violence here on the Central Committee stream. I want you to know that, chat. I would never directly call for violence because that's against TOS. And I'm a TOS follower. And as Lenin said, you need legal Marxists and illegal Marxists, right? The legal Marxists have to maintain their position to maximize the spread of Marxism to as many people as possible. So I always stay on this side of the bright orange line because I am a notorious and well-known legal Marxist. All right. So I would never, ever call for violence. Okay. Because that's against the rules. All right. Leaving that aside. Motherfucker, you celebrated a terrorist attack. I'm going to show you the street. I can't believe this isn't a story. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. The life of a mass murderer in World of Warcraft. Anders Bering Breivik smiled during the court on Monday as the prosecution displayed an image of his World of Warcraft character, Anders Nordic. All right, hold on. Okay, that looks like shit. I'm trying to get like better screenshots. Okay, that's the first one. Now, look at this. Yeah, hold on. He admitted this as well. Does anybody else have the link to this? Because I'll find it. It's not a big deal. But after Anders Breivik, wow dog. Yeah, he named it. Here's a video.
What's up, y'all? It's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today I'm going to be doing something that I've been working on for a really, really long time, and that is a full level 90 to 100 Wards of Draenor questing walkthrough leveling guide. And, you know, whatever you want to call it, this is the video, and we're going to be going through every quest you need to be, every
and
purple
here it
thing
is,
you need
chat.
to click, you know, every...
If you click on this, it says Anders Nordic. That's his character. He also admitted it on Reddit. If you guys could find me on Reddit. He like posted, oh, it's my dark humor. Can you imagine if I made a WoW character celebrating an October 7th attacker? Can you imagine how people would react if I made a WoW character like celebrating a mass murderer of children, by the way? Okay, let's see here. So, does anybody have the Reddit? He made a Reddit post about it. This guy, this isn't it. Like, he literally made a Reddit post on his main account. Does anybody have that post? Oh, here you go. Oh, thank you. Power leveling guide. Can you find me the link to this? Yeah, here we go. All right, hold on. Like, he's literally a terrorist supporter. He's a literal terrorist supporter. And after he came out in favor of genocide of Palestinians, he's like, this dark humor is what it is. Hold on, let me see. Maybe I could just use this. This is... Oh, we're just getting started with Asmongold. We're just getting started with Asmongold. We're just... Still... We are... We're just getting started with Asmongold. Call him cockroach? I mean, everybody knows he's a cockroach. My version of inappropriate dark humor. Don't worry, I'm not some kind of white supremacist or whatever. If you're Norwegian, I'm assuming you don't play on US realms, but if you do, feel free to report the name, and if it violates the rules, then I'll have to change it. Content removed by moderator. Weird. Content removed by moderator. Wow. Everything is deleted. So odd. They're all sweeping for this fucking scumbag. Holy shit, he just started a Kick 2 minutes ago. Kick is just the bot. You understand that Kick is just the botter paradise, right? You know, that's the botting paradise, right? Like, that's part of the reason why people stream on Kick is so they can bot the fuck out of it. But the also thing is, the other truth is, Asmongold is also a bigger streamer than me. That's true. He is a bigger streamer than me. He has been a bigger streamer than me for a long time. That's true. But that doesn't mean he's not a terrorist supporter. Hey, newsflash. People make jokes about terrible things. If you can't take someone having a bad name, then grow up. That was left. Why would 9/11 be offensive? It's just a date. I love how the responses were all removed by mods. Insane. Crazy.
Shadow Moon Valley, just to make sure that, you know, just by doing this exploit, it's not really going to kind of throw you guys off of the leveling method here. Now, I do also have rest experience, and so you guys can kind of assume that, I mean, man, like, this went so fast for me, like, it was really no problem. Now, the other...
Think of how much you had to know the deep lore for this. He had to know the name and when to swipe it. Yeah, no, he had to... I'm sure there were other Nazis that were trying to get the name. So not only did he get the Nazi name, he had to be first at it. So he was sitting there, probably at server start, desperately trying to get the name. That's how much of a Nazi he is. Fucking scum. And he's running to the FBI saying, oh, look at these people, you need to start censoring speech. You need to censor speech. This sounds like policing thought and speech. They like that. Right-wingers like it. They want to support a genocide. They want to support ethnic cleansing and white supremacy. And they want to censor anybody who is opposed to that. And their argument is, well, if we can do it, then we can do it because we're stronger. That's the argument. Calling harmful moves to action legitimate threats and planning violence is not free speech. It's a crime. If you said these things at a Dunkin' Donuts, it would be a crime. This fucker doesn't know what any of this means. That's not... It has to be imminent, you dumb fuck. It's the First Amendment. People just post shit. People just post shit. They think, oh, that makes sense to me, and they just post it. Shut the fuck up! It has to be inducement to imminent lawful action. Unlawful action. You dumb illiterate fuck. The imminent lawless action test. See, I know this because I'm educated and you aren't, you dumb fuck. Brandenburg clarified what constituted a clear and present danger, the standard established by Schneck versus United States and overruled by Whitney v. California, which had held that speech that merely advocated violence could be made illegal. Under the imminent lawless action test, speech is not protected by the First Amendment if the speaker intends to incite a violation of the law that is both imminent and likely. While the precise meaning of imminent may be ambiguous in some cases, the Supreme Court provided later clarification in Hess v. Indiana, which found that Hess's words were protected under his rights to free speech, in part because his speech amounted to nothing more than advocacy of illegal action at some indefinite future time, and therefore did not meet the imminence requirement. Advocacy of force or criminal activity does not receive First Amendment protections if, 1, the advocacy is directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action, and 2, is likely to incite or produce such action. That is what the First Amendment says. You can say that under the First Amendment. So shut the fuck up, bitch. The problem is now the Supreme Court could decide something different. Yes, that's called you now are aware of how the legal system works. But this is what the law is now. Yes, somebody could change the law in the future. Congratulations, you just figured out how laws work. One of the worst parts of like interacting with Destiny, you know, Asmongold, Tectone, is there's an old Sartre quote. He was talking about anti-Semites, basically fascists, because there was a lot of anti-Semitic fascism in France. If you went to someone in 1925 and said, there's a European country that's about to be taken over, that's going to be taken over by the far right in 20 years to do a genocide against Jews. If you had said that to somebody in 1925, they would have predicted that it was France, not Germany. So Sartre had a quote on anti-Semitism. Basically, he's really talking about fascists in general, but he says, never believe that fascists are completely unaware of the absurdity of their replies. They know that the remarks are frivolous, open to challenge, but they are amusing themselves, for it is their adversary who is obliged to use words responsibly since he believes in words. The anti-Semites have the right to play. They even like to play with the discourse by giving ridiculous reasons, they discredit the seriousness of their interlocutors. They delight in acting in bad faith since they seek not to persuade by sound argument, but to intimidate and disconcert. If you press them too closely, they will abruptly fall silent, loftily indicating by some phrase the time for argument is past. That is Asmongold in a nutshell. These motherfuckers don't give a fuck about anything, and I don't give a fuck about them. I have figured the time has come to fight fire with fire. Interlocutors. I always misspell it. Interlocutors, sorry. I always mispronounce that word. Ethan has been posting this quote 100 times. Yes, I'm the person who has been saying this quote, and then Destiny's community who watched me brought it to Destiny, and then Destiny started posting it, and then that's how it's now gone to Ethan. This is actually me. I've been saying this for 5 years to explain fascism. So it's absolutely classic that Ethan Klein is posting this because the source is me. And the only reason they started posting it is because he says anti-Semites. And it's just like, I call you anti-Semitic, and then I post this quote, right? Like, they're not actually understanding the ideas, which is basically the far right doesn't believe in, like, discourse and rationality. And so when they engage in discourse and rationality, they're treating it like somebody coming into the middle of a museum and taking a dump, right? Like, they don't give a shit. They don't care. They're there to just fuck around, okay? And so you can't treat them seriously. You can't be like, well, listen to my argument, Asmongold. Will you change your mind, Tectone? Oh, will you listen to me, Destiny? They don't give a fuck. They don't care. Just the fact that you're engaging with them is lowering yourself. Unfortunately, there's enough of them now that you got to deal with them. So what's the best way to deal with them? The answer is they need to be put on the back foot. They have to be on the defense. You want to get back at Asmongold? Don't argue with him about Palestine. Call him a cockroach. Post the cockroach video. Post a video about him not taking a shower. Post the video of him catching his mom on fire with cigarettes. That's how you fight back. You don't fight back by making arguments about Palestine. You want to make arguments about Palestine? That's fine. But you want to argue with Asmongold? You need to bring up his disgusting house. The filth he lives in, the trash he's surrounded by, the rotten rat alarm clock. That's how you deal with these people. Tectone, you bring up his rapist father. You bring up all the sexual charges that are against him. You fight these people on the ground they live on. You don't try to engage with them in lofty arguments. They don't care. They don't fucking care. And so it's time to fight fire with fire. It's time. You want to get in the trenches with these scumbags? Let's get in the trenches. Let's bring the mirror on Asmongold and his rotten fucking teeth. He wants to call, they want to call fucking Frogan names. It's time for us to get them uncomfortable by giving them the same energy back. That's the only way they're going to start smarting. The one thing they're scared of is female laughter. Why do you think they surround themselves with OnlyFans girls? Why do you think they surround themselves with women that are trading time for money? The answer is because that's the only way they can guarantee they don't get laughed at. Because they're paying a professional to pretend to like them. And a lot of streamers do that with clout, where they're basically hiring people to pretend they're cool for clout. So this is why they have the, you know, that's the fucking game that's being played. So the only way to break that game up is to, let's be honest about it. Let's be real about it. And so that is going to be I declare dark woke. I declare fighting fire with fire. I declare all bets are off with the soy right. What knocked down Andrew Tate? Did knocking down Andrew Tate by arguing feminist theory? Or was it making fun of him by pointing out that men get into more car crashes until he had a meltdown? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. The only difference between me and Luthen Rail is I would have said, I'm enjoying using the tools of my enemy to defeat them. That is what we're going to be doing. I enjoy using the tool of my enemy to defeat them. I relish using the tools of my enemy. I can't fucking wait. Where's Asmongold saying that it's like, why the fuck is this mage called Anders Nordic? As a Norwegian, this really offends me. Fuck him. I've made tons of videos on YouTube, some of which are linked to Reddit, talking about how much I care about following the rules. He's not apologetic because he's celebrating child murder. He's apologetic because he doesn't want to get his WoW account banned. Is using the R slur for Elon Sims against the Geneva Conventions for dark woke? I personally wouldn't call them the R slur because you're just going to make yourself look bad. But calling them smelly, calling them a little stinky boy, laughing at them in general, posting their PFPs back to them, just stuff like that is better. Saying post face. Whenever somebody posts like a misogynistic thing about a woman, saying post face, girlfriend pick now, like all that stuff like that. Those are the things that you could do instead of like the R slur. The Sartre quote applies much more to Zionists now, especially the need for anti-Zionism to be careful with language as Zionists telling obviously provable lies for their own amusement. Yeah, of course. They're fascists. Here's the thing you need to understand about fascists. You are not talking with a human being. I want you to understand that. You are not talking to a human being. You are talking to a malevolence. They don't care about anything because they feel secure. They feel like a 6th grade bully at a 1st grade classroom. They think they're safe and they're acting out of malice and sadism for pleasure. So if you want to stop fascists, you don't stop fascists by appealing to their humanity. You stop fascists by undermining that feeling of safety and that feeling of impunity. That's why they hate cancel culture so much, because cancel culture means that they can't just be sadistic. That's why they're so obsessed with it, because they want to get away with being sadistic. They want to get away with being an asshole. They want to get away with being racist. And when cancel culture exists, that hangs over their head and it ruins their fun. So they shut the fuck up about stuff. They stop saying racist shit because they're worried they might have consequences. So if you want to stop fascism, you have to make them have consequences. You have to make it not fun. You want to stop bullies? That's why the bully doesn't bully the kid that fights back, because if he gets a bloody nose, that's not fun. He'll go to the kid who appeals to his humanity to bully because he has none. This is how you need to understand bullies from now on. Now, when the bully is defeated, when the bully is in your power, then you can do the nice mamby-pamby pacifist, let's work on the guy, work on the person, rehabilitation bullshit. But rehabilitation happens after defeat. You don't lead with rehabilitation when they're in a position of power, because they will laugh at it and use it against you. Stop being nice to mean people. That doesn't work. This is a very important point that I think a lot of leftists don't understand. Rehabilitation works when you break the power of the malevolent force first. Isn't that why Mel Brooks's depictions making fun of them was the most useful? I mean, yes, making fun of Nazis was funny, but it was only funny after they were defeated. Their pretensions were funny to laugh at. Fascism was funny to laugh out after Mussolini was hung, after Hitler blew his brains out. But when they're in the fucking White House, you can make fun of them all you want if they can hit you with a billy club, if they can censor you, like Asmongold. That's why Asmongold is calling for censorship, because he can't debate, and he's worried about consequences. And he doesn't want the left to have any power to fight back. And that's why Asmongold says stuff like, I like single-payer healthcare, and I like, I like Bernie, and blah, blah, blah. What they're doing is they're trying to defeat an organized resistance, because people will hear that and go, well, he kind of likes, but he's not right-wing. He likes single-payer healthcare. That's bullshit. He's trying to censor the left off the fucking internet. He's a fascist dummy. I don't care what he thinks about some issue. In the words of our Aragorn, share no mercy, for you shall receive no. I mean, it's not Aragorn that said that, but it's okay. It was the character name of the infamous mass murderer Anders Breivik. Oh, are these all posts deleted by Asmongold? You're seriously implying he's an asshole after he spent several hours putting together a video to help people? Too many redirects. So anyway, I think talking about Asmongold, the best way to talk about Asmongold is I appreciate people like taking his clips and then arguing shit. And I think that's 100% good and necessary. But the better way is to make associating with Asmongold fucking embarrassing. Texas police used nationwide license plate reader network to track woman who had self-managed abortion. A Texas's sheriff's office tapped into a nationwide network of tens of thousands of automatic license plate readers to locate a woman who had a self-managed abortion. Abortion is almost entirely illegal in Texas, but the search included cameras in states where abortion is legal. Worried that she was going to bleed to death, and we were trying to get her find her to get her to a hospital. We weren't trying to block her from leaving the state or whatever to get an abortion. It was about her safety. Did you guys hear Miskiff is leaving? Like, apparently, like, Austin is dying out. Even Miskiff is leaving. Remember when people cited Austin as, like, the place to go? Wah, wah. Oh, no. John Redcorn's voice actor died at 59? He was shot by his neighbor? What? An armed society is a polite society, as they say. You just pump, your neighbor does something annoying, you confront him, and he shoots you to death. Amazing Texas lifestyle.
This video is brought to you thanks to our sponsor, Surfshark, and also thanks to the support of
this video is actually really cool. We should watch this, actually. Mélenchon's war against the French establishment. This is real leftist shit. Only real leftists will watch this. Only people who actually are cool as fuck will watch this with me. Also, chat, I just realized something. We're 4 hours into the stream, and I forgot to chill. If you enjoy this content, please consider supporting it by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub. If you have Amazon, you can attach that to your Twitch account. You get 1 free sub a month. That's your Twitch Prime sub. Wow. Wow. There's a lot of people who are working paycheck to paycheck, parents of young children, college students, people on a fixed income because of retirement or disability, or just regular people struggling to make ends meet. So if you enjoy this content, subscribe. Wow. Wow. Help us hit the daily sub goal. All right, let's watch this.
Patreon. In 2016, two political shocks occurred across the Atlantic. In the United States, Bernie Sanders launched a grassroots campaign that reawakened the American left. And in France, Jean-Luc Mélenchon broke away from traditional party politics to create La France Insoumise, France Unbowed, a bold insurgent movement aimed at rewriting the rules of French politics. By 2022, Mélenchon came very close to reaching the presidential runoff after uniting most of the French left behind a radical program of ecological planning, social justice, and democratic renewal. His message resonated with the youth, working class voters, but also those who felt abandoned by mainstream politics. In 2024, France Unbowed heavily influenced the program of the Popular Front Alliance, which won the legislative elections against the far right, against Macron's party, and against all odds. But France Unbowed is no longer just a French phenomenon. With the publication of Now the People, Mélenchon has taken his fight abroad, touring the US, calling for global alliance of popular movements, and even sitting down with Twitch streamer Hassan Piker, symbol of a generation fed up with traditional party politics and demanding real change. At the same time, the backlash has intensified. A new book, La Meute, so The Pack, is an investigation painting Mélenchon as a danger to the Republic. It is part of a broader wave of attacks that aim less to debate his ideas than to discredit his presence. So what is it about this man, this movement, that provokes such fascination and such fear? In this video, we'll dive into the rise of France Unbowed, its story, its battles, its strategy and shortcomings. Because in a time of abundance for the few and scarcity for the many, France may once again be the place where new ideas are tested and the future is imagined. At least that's what my French pride leads me to believe. So my name's Alice, welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about the men and the movement that changed French politics forever. To understand France Unbowed, we have to start with the life of the man who shaped it. A life of ideas, rebellion, betrayal, and reinvention. The political life of Jean-Luc Mélenchon. But before I do that, I need to talk to you about today's sponsor, Surfshock. You know, as someone who spends hours researching for these videos and for other projects, I need unrestricted access to information. But the truth is, a lot of the internet is geo-blocked. Articles, documentaries, and even certain websites are just out of reach, depending on where you are in the world. That's where Surfshock comes in. Surfshock is a VPN that lets me virtually change my location to anywhere in the world, unlocking content I wouldn't otherwise have access to. It's like giving yourself a digital passport to the global internet. You need to read an article only available in the UK? No problem. You want to watch a documentary that's only available on a Japanese version of a streaming platform? Easy. Surfshock makes it possible. And beyond access, it's also about privacy. Whether I'm on public Wi-Fi while traveling, August 19, 1951, in Tangier, Morocco, in a Franco-Spanish family.
Please go back to the beginning.
Tangier was an international hub, a crossroads of cultures, languages, and ideas. His childhood was shaped by this spirit.
I feel like if Mélenchon was born in it was American, history would be different. Bernie Sanders should be in France, and Mélenchon should be American. Like, if I could swap two people in history, I would swap them. Mélenchon is American coded. There, I said it. His attitude is exactly what we need. We need somebody like, if he had done that in America, he would be in his second term right now with 85% approval. Bernie Sanders is too much of a bitch. And I think that history will agree with me. History will look at Bernie Sanders and be like, bitch, pussy. And it's true.
Of diversity. His mother, a school teacher, moved the family to France, first to Normandy, then to Lons-le-Saunier in the Jura region. There, Mélenchon discovered rural France, harsh, sometimes conservative, and marked by social inequalities that would later fuel his political anger. He earned a degree in philosophy in Besançon and worked as a proofreader in the printing industry. Then he briefly tried teaching and eventually turned to politics. Mélenchon got involved early. At 17, he joined the OCI, a Trotskyist organization of Lambertist orientation. There he learned ideological discipline, but also the art of political strategy and debate. In 1976, he joined the Socialist Party, so the center-left party in France, following François Mitterrand's call for left-wing unity. For Mélenchon, it was a way to advance his ideas within the Republican framework. The man quickly became a prominent local figure in Essonne. In 1986, at age 35, he was elected senator, one of the youngest ever. From that moment, he became the Mélenchon we know today. Provocative, combative, and cultured. The real turning point came in 2005. The European Constitutional Treaty, supported by most of the Socialist Party, was firmly rejected by Mélenchon. He campaigned for the no vote alongside former communists and alter globalists. French people voted against the treaty, yet the Socialist Party continued as if nothing had happened. For Mélenchon, this was the ultimate betrayal. In 2008, he left the Socialist Party and founded the Left Party, Parti de Gauche. A year later, he joined forces with the French Communist Party to launch the Left Front, le Front de Gauche. The goal was to rebuild a genuine left, independent from the PS, the Socialist Party. His first major challenge was the 2012 presidential election. Jean-Luc Mélenchon embodied a combative left, quoting Victor Hugo and referencing the Paris Commune in powerful speeches. He surprised many with an 11.1% result, and his Bastille rally became a symbol of his rise.
Et où on était passé?
However, he failed to build a broader coalition, and in the following legislative elections, he ran against Marine Le Pen in Hénin-Beaumont and lost. It was a personal blur. Then in 2016, Mélenchon embraced a new political adventure on his own. He created La France Insoumise, Francenbald. Francenbald is more a movement than a party. There's no membership cards, it's organized around action groups, and it has a strong base online. Its message? Anti-establishment and openly radical. So Mélenchon ran again in the 2017 presidential elections. Many described his campaign as spectacular. He spoke to the youth, the working class, and those who had given up on voting. The results? 19.6% of the vote. He overtook the Socialist Party's candidate and became the new face of the radical left. But criticisms also intensified, among them controversies regarding his stances on the police, ambiguities on secularism, and accusations of authoritarianism within the movement.
La République, c'est moi!
Nevertheless, in 2022, Jean-Luc Mélenchon launched his third presidential campaign. At 70 years old, he adopted a calmer, more educational tone. He leaned heavily on his program, L'Avenir en commun, a future in common, refined since 2016. As I said in the introduction, he narrowly missed the runoff, scoring 21.95% of the vote, just a few 100,000 votes behind Marine Le Pen, who qualified for the second round against Emmanuel Macron. What's clear there is that despite his defeat,
the French are kind of like, I don't know how to put this without coming across as anti-French, but they're a little bit whiny.
Mélenchon clearly outpaced all other left-wing candidates.
He's too aggressive for them. He's too aggressive for them.
Nouvelle page du combat s'ouvre.
Part 2, Mélenchon's vision. Even those who don't agree with Mélenchon recognize his many talents. Political commentators often compare him to a tribune. He's good at public speaking and influence people with his intellect. But beyond the leader, there's a movement, a program, a detailed plan to replace neoliberalism. So let's dive into it, theme by theme. First, an ecology of class struggle. Jean-Luc Mélenchon doesn't talk about ecology in terms of small lifestyle changes. He champions eco-socialism, so a radical approach that ties the environmental crisis to the fight against capitalism and social injustice. He said, quote, "Ecology without class struggle is like gardening." In his manifesto, The Future in Common, Mélenchon proposes ecological planning, a form of Green New Deal but much more ambitious, kind of like post-war planification which helped rebuild Europe, but green. This message resonated especially with younger generation, demanding both climate justice and economic justice. It has, for example, forced the Green Party to adopt a more radical stance too, in order to retain its supporters fed up with the party's green capitalism. This is an example of Francenbald's ability to shift the overtone window to the left and force other left-wing parties to adapt. You see, your proposition is perceived as radical only if there are no less radical alternatives on the left. So if everyone adopts this radical position, then it's no longer perceived as radical. That's why Mélenchon is very vocal about his disagreements with the center-left. By publicizing his disagreements, he encourages voters to question other left-wing parties and demand more of them. By doing so, he progressively shifts the overtone window towards more radical measures and positions Francenbald as the center of attention and innovation. Speaking of innovation, Mélenchon strongly believes that it is time to profoundly change the French constitution. Just to give you a little bit of context, the French Fifth Republic is the current form of government in France. It was set up in 1958, following a major political crisis linked to the Algerian War. It replaced the less stable Fourth Republic, introducing a much stronger executive branch with expanded powers for the president. This system blends features of both parliamentary and presidential governments, which is why it's called a semi-presidential republic. Charles de Gaulle became its first president and played a key role in shaping how the system functions. Now, Mélenchon doesn't like the Fifth Republic. He sees it as a, quote, presidential monarchy, outdated and undemocratic. And he's not wrong. As an example, the recent Boulder government under Macron bypassed parliament 23 times thanks to Article 49.3. So to put it simply, Boulder's government under Macron said to the parliament 23 times. That's why Mélenchon calls for a sixth republic with a new constitution written by citizens to strengthen democracy. He wants to introduce citizens' referendums, the right to recall elected officials, as well as the end of the president's concentration of power, so the end of that 49.3 article. He says, quote, "We want to move from a presidential monarch to a people's democracy."
And like, this is what fundamentally centrists are against. They don't want to have a situation where universal suffrage is meaningful, because that would mean redistribution. And that would mean prioritization of markets and profits would end.
Constitutional revolution, what he calls a citizen revolution, is a defining part of his political identity. It's at the core of his recently translated book, Now the People. Actually, during that press tour, Mélenchon met Twitch streamer Hassan Piker, the very popular socialist Twitch streamer. As he gave him the book, Mélenchon said to Hassan that he was not like the other Americans, that he was a good guy. As most French people, Mélenchon loves to complain about the US. Mélenchon carries with him the long left-wing tradition of peace. That's why he's critical of organizations like NATO and the EU, which he calls the US vassal.
Popular sovereignty. Hell yeah, that's what I support. Today, Jean-Luc Mélenchon adores socialist candidate Zohran Mandavi for mayor of New York City while his visit to the city. Hell yeah, dude. And as you noticed, I already retweeted it. DSA, NYDSA, they hosted Jean-Luc Mélenchon. So cool, man.
Unlike many on the left, Mélenchon has been openly critical of the European Union treaties, especially their neoliberal foundations. He led the No campaign against the EU constitution in 2005. During a presidential debate in 2017, he said that, quote, "Europe must be changed or left." Now, just to make it clear, he doesn't advocate for a Frexit, but insists on reclaiming democratic control over key policies. In fact, France Unbowed has managed to send 9 party members to the European Parliament in the last election. The socialist MEPs have worked on defending the movement's socialist vision and anti-war advocacy as part of the group, the left. On an international level, Mélenchon wants France to reclaim sovereign, non-aligned diplomacy, breaking with the US-led military alliances. He's an advocate of a multilateral world based on UN law, not bloc logic. This stance drew him a lot of criticism. Members of France Unbowed are regularly questioned about Ukraine.
I can't believe you're not... No, we should form a bloc and fight Russia! Warmongering liberals.
As they encourage de-escalation and diplomatic solutions.
He got the UAW endorsement too? Oh, I didn't see this.
Other speakers will talk about the 15,000 seniors that died in New York State nursing homes due to COVID and the serious missteps of the Cuomo administration. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm sure other speakers will discuss the multiple sexual harassment charges brought against former Governor Cuomo, but that's not what I'm here to talk about either. I'm here to tell you that when United Auto Workers needed Governor Cuomo's help, he turned his back on us.
Our members want a better, safer, and more affordable city. Someone who passes up the opportunities to support workers in a time of crisis, that person is unfit to be mayor of working-class New Yorkers.
Our membership across the country went out on strike in September of 2019 against GM. UAW Region 9 and 9A worked hard, lobbied a state legislator to get a bill passed that would ensure that unemployment would come after 1 week. Cuomo, as governor, had the chance to sign that bill into law. Not only did he not sign that bill into law, he never stepped foot on any of our strike lines. Let me repeat that. He never stepped foot on any of our strike lines. Cuomo was absent and ignored every one of our calls. This is a man who wants you all to believe he supports labor.
We're talking about a man who created Tier 6, which took more than $100,000 out of the pockets of working-class public sector workers. A man who I just saw for the first time in my life, just last week, describing Tier 6 as ancient history. The only thing that's ancient history is Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah! Enough with the corruption, enough with the chaos, enough with the yielding to corporate bosses. Let's elect a mayor who works for working New Yorkers.
When we needed Andrew Cuomo, Cuomo showed cowardice. So New Yorkers, don't get fooled again.
So my guess is UAW endorsed Lander and Zohran. Is that it? Because they have Lander in the video, so they must have invited both of them. Is that basically what is happening? They endorse Zohran #1, Lander #2. Well, I mean, Lander's not going to be #1, so.
While other left-wing parties, like the Socialist Party or its new Instagram-friendly version, Place Publique, seems to prefer a military solution.
Collectif européen de 500 milliards.
C'est ce qu'on est en train de discuter. De l'argent européen, Raphaël.
C'est ce qu'on est en train de discuter.
That's the compatible left.
Mélenchon has also often been criticized for his political relationships with South America. He sees it as a region of resistance to neoliberalism, often referring to it as a laboratory for alternative political and economic models. In 2019, he said, quote, "Latin America is the place where people dared to rise. So of course they want to crush them." Some affiliations have been questioned, though. Mélenchon openly supported Hugo Chavez and initially defended Nicolás Maduro, especially when the Venezuelan government was under attack from the US and its allies. However, the crisis in Venezuela worsened with inflation, authoritarianism, political repression, and mass immigration, so Mélenchon came under heavy criticism for being too lenient or ambiguous. Now, what Mélenchon liked about those regimes and leaders is their ability to reclaim their sovereignty against Western imperialism and its modern forms like the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, then led by former French minister Christine Lagarde. She was actually featured in the latest Financial Times Women edition. Let me just get my copy. There she is. We love a neoliberal girl boss. My American viewers might not know her, but my Greek and South American viewers, they know her very well, and they do not have fond memories of her. In Brazil, for example, President Lula was very critical of the IMF, and because one's enemy's enemies becomes your best friend, Lula and Mélenchon really got along. Here you can see Mélenchon traveling to Brazil to meet Lula when he was imprisoned. This video is titled Vlog in Brazil with Lula, political prisoner, #StopLawfare. As you can see, the leader of France Unbowed films his trip like a typical influencer, which leads me to my next point.
Imagine if he was American. He would literally have 60% of the vote right now. Imagine! Has Hassan watched this yet? It has a Hassan glaze in it. Has he watched it yet? Oh, he's probably watching it today then.
Mélenchon revolutionized political campaigning with digital tools and grassroots media. The vlog I have just showed you was posted 5 years ago and has since inspired other politicians, including Emmanuel Macron, to also use that medium. Mélenchon turned to his YouTube channel as an alternative media. In 2019, he said, quote, "If they won't put you on TV, build your own media." On it, you find vlogs, video essay type of content, speeches, TV interventions, etc., etc. His goal is to democratize political knowledge and bring leftist ideas into the online mainstream. So Mélenchon is not anti-tech, quite the contrary. His movement, France Unbowed, and its think tank, the La Boétie Institute, devotes a lot of time to understanding the challenges technology poses on people. They want to figure out how the movement can use technology in alignment with their socialist ideals. And
very smart. Very, very smart. I honestly think this should be our position. Hey, Maves. I think this should be our position. Our position should be, how do we exploit technology for our own gain?
Electoral goals. For example, in 2017, Mélenchon went viral after conducting multiple rallies at the same time by multiplying himself as a hologram.
Such a boomer. Such a boomer shit.
Mélenchon knows how to get the attention of the public and can rely on a community of serial meme makers to ensure virality.
Est-ce que c'est pas le moment de dire que le problème, c'est celui de ceux qui se gavent, c'est celui de ceux qui se gavent, c'est celui de ceux qui se gavent.
France Unbowed uses social media to connect with potential voters and counter mischaracterizations from the media. They use memes and trends to game the algorithm and redirect people towards their program, explainers, courses, and conferences. It's popular education for the 21st century, redistributing knowledge using the technologies available. Speaking of redistribution, let's talk about another core feature of France Unbowed: redistribution of wealth. Mélenchon brought class politics back to political discourse and also back to left-wing politics, which had become increasingly neoliberal friendly.
Mike, would you like to interview DSA candidates endorsed by the national organization? Maybe.
Example, François Baud forced the 2024 Popular Front Alliance to campaign around their
I'm just like, I don't know. I was looking to see if I recognized anybody.
To raise the minimum wage.
Asmold is a bitch, carry on. I mean, he's a fucking loser.
From 1,400 euros a month to 1,600 euros a month. During the last presidential campaigns, Mélenchon reintroduced the idea of tax the rich, an idea so popular it was copied by the center-left party as a way to bring back younger voters who had left. Once again, François Baud set the standards for the left, and in a moment we'll explain how they managed to do so consistently. But let's go back to the social measures. Raising minimum wage, taxing the rich, freezing inflation on essentials like food and fuel, which is, remember, what started the Yellow Vests movement a few years ago. Mélenchon also fiercely defended public services like schools, hospitals, but also more specialized services like shelters, legal aid, and psychological care for victims of SA. He views those services as the backbone of social justice and national unity. For him, it's a matter of patriotism. He says, quote, "We must take common goods out of the hands of the market." As you can see, the common is at the heart of Mélenchon's politics, and that also includes civil liberties. Mélenchon drew criticism when he tweeted, quote, "The police kill." François Baud stood against police violence during the Yellow Vest movements, during the eco-protests in Sainte-Soline, during the anti-retirement reform protests, or when the young Nel Merzouk was killed by a police officer. His support earned him respect from young activists and marginalized communities who are the main victims of police violence and intimidation. Speaking of marginalized communities, Mélenchon believes that hierarchies between different ethnic and religious communities are deeply harmful. France is not a pure identity, but a nation shaped by constant mixing of languages, cultures, and histories. He borrowed from Caribbean writer Édouard Glissant the concept of creolization and introduced it into French political discourse. Creolization describes the ongoing mixing and fusion of different peoples, languages, traditions, and ways of life to create something new and shared. Mélenchon sees creolization not as a loss of identity, but as a creative process of mutual enrichment. For him, it's the antidote to both assimilation, which erases differences, and communitarism, which isolates identities. In his view, France is an already creolized nation, shaped by centuries of migration, colonial history, and its resulting cultural blending. Politically, creolization reflects Mélenchon's vision of a universalist republic.
Yeah, I mean, and like, of course, that's how France always existed. That's the thing that's very interesting about white supremacy in general, is whiteness is imported from America to Europe. And so Mélenchon is very intelligently importing Creole culture from America to Europe. The antidote to white supremacy is also available in the source of white supremacy.
To all backgrounds, but rooted in common.
Much respect for not capitulating to far-right bigotry like liberals and leftists do. I am one of the luckiest people in the world in that through random chance and luck, always standing up for my values has led me to the point of complete freedom. Every step along the way in my life, I was given the opportunity to sell out or do the wrong thing, and I never took it. I never took it. I always stood up for what I believed was right every single time, no matter who was telling me different. And for me, it has led me to success in life. And I define success as freedom and not being compelled to follow the wishes of another. That's success for me. And I hope to have many more successes and many more projects and many more positive impacts on the world. But the reason why I am where I am is because I'm the exact type of person that will never capitulate. I'm just right first. And I can tell you that being right first only matters to people that are intelligent and honest. And many, 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 many people are neither. So, and that also causes me to gain enemies. A lot of people hate the fact that I don't chase around the Democratic Party or even Bernie or AOC. The fact that I try to be practical and reasonable, but I don't tail people. I don't make my politics according to what some dipshit fucking influencer thinks I should do, but rather trying to reason and use reason and logic to develop a program that might work one day. A lot of people who want to sell out dislike that because you show that you don't have to sell out to succeed.
Civic values. In recent years, France Unbowed has been the only party to take a serious stance against rising Islamophobia, including opposing laws that target the Muslim community specifically, such as the proposed ban on the hijab in sports competitions. Now, all the themes that we have covered, eco-socialism, the Sixth Republic, popular sovereignty, digital politics, redistribution, and civil liberties are essential to Mélenchon's movement. They reflected the needs and demands of a society hurt by decades of neoliberalism. As I said in the introduction, France Unbowed was created in 2016. That means that the movement is only 10 years old. In 10 years, France Unbowed has completely reshaped French left-wing politics. The movement has forced other left-wing parties to clarify their stances on capitalism, war, redistribution, police violence, and racism. In just 10 years, they have imposed themselves as the French left at home and abroad. Now, how did they do so? Well, their success is the result of the nature of the movement. France Unbowed is what we can call an organic movement. What do we mean by organic? Well, let's use a metaphor here, the fungi. I know it's not very sexy, but you'll see what I mean. Well, France Unbowed is like a fungi. It exists in a network of social movements and social relations represented as different trees with their own networks. It recognizes that society is built from its organisms. The trees communicate with one another, shape their environment, grow and die, return to the soil, leaving a trace and fueling future life. Gosh, I'm really bringing poetics to politics in this one. The role of France Unbowed is to be in constant dialogue with old and new social movements, so in dialogue with the different organisms engaged in the formation of what we call society. They believe that ideology shouldn't trickle down onto living beings. It shouldn't be forced onto them with demagogy or military force. Instead, it should emerge from the organisms of society rooted in the real. The role of the movement is to then pick up the messages sent by those organisms to then translate them into a program to be communicated massively through political messaging. That means slogans, rallies, interviews, manifestos. In this whole ecosystem, France Unbowed are like social engineers. They analyze, intellectualize the messages they receive from society with the help of researchers in their think tank, La Boétie, in order to produce the most compelling politics possible. By adopting this organic view of society, France Unbowed is capable of anticipating where the world is heading. Mélenchon is known for bringing topics to public discourse far before they become politically relevant. I remember attending one of his rallies a few years ago, and instead of commenting on his opponents' postures and comments like most politicians do, Mélenchon talked about water. Access to water, the politics of water. And I know the topic of water doesn't seem that relevant, but look at what's going on in the world right now. Look at the situation in India and Pakistan. Look at this headline, quote, India to stop water flowing across international borders, Modi says. Look at those recent reports highlighting how contaminated the water we drink is. Mélenchon balances political drama with popular education. He knows how to get the attention of voters with catchy slogans and provocative language, but ultimately he wants them to elevate their consciousness, to understand how society works. Mélenchon challenges people to look beyond the usual good versus evil narrative. He believes in people's ability to see through the bias, the propaganda, to make their own enlightened opinion. As a human being, as a politician, Mélenchon is known for having a strong character which has led him to do and say things that are clearly not acceptable. He's the product of the French Fifth Republic, a strong, popular figure around which people rally in the hope of a better future. That's why, quoi qu'on pense de Mélenchon, as the French say, whatever one thinks of him, we can agree that Mélenchon is not an anomaly of history, but the very product of it. The man has risen on the French political scene as people across the world rise up against a system that no longer delivers dignity, stability, or hope. Neoliberalism is collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions, and in its place, two paths are emerging. reactionary violence, or democratic transformation. As liberal elites retreat from their own promises of progress, many cling to power through force, not consent. Militarization replaces dialogue, but millions are refusing this dissent. For those who still believe in a future of peace, justice, and abundance for the many, not the few, socialism is no longer a dream. It is a necessity. Disillusioned with compromise, betrayed by decades of social democracy that prioritized market over people, they are no longer willing to settle. Whether it's the Democrats in the US, Labour in the UK, or the Socialist Party in France, the old center is breaking. Fear of the far right once kept people loyal to the status quo, and in some places it still does. But that spell is fading. A new generation is no longer choosing between lesser evils. They are building something new. Together, from the bottom up, France Unbowed is one attempt at doing that. It's certainly not perfect, but it's a robust proposition, a breath of fresh air in the chaos of scarcity, decline, and despair. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, the conversation continues in the comment section. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, if it's not already done. Before I end the video, I would like to say thank you to our sponsor, Surfshark, and also thank you to my Patreons. Thank you for their support. Big thank you in particular to top tier Patreons, Jacob, Richard Austin, Ron Wing, Fred, Hongjing Hong, Jean-Louis Agenot, George J. Kweme, Wolf Kratz, Patrick Button, Devish Mohan Mina, Jeff Lee, Yilan, Taya Matin, Nick.
Wow, when you see Mel and Sean and stuff like that, you could feel the positive vibes, dude. You could just feel, how the tide is starting to turn. It's fucking great. Well, I think that's a pretty good place. I think that's a pretty good place to call it for me. Let's see here. Where do I want to send y'all? You know who deserves some support? Rob Russo. Is a Canadian, a fucking Canadian, but also has base takes. So I'm going to send you over there. Thank you so much for supporting the stream. I'll see you all very soon. Appreciate you. Stay safe out there. Solidarity forever, my friends. And of course, free Palestine from the river to the sea. From someone who spends all day on the platform and literally only watches you and Haas, I want to appreciate and recognize the great work you do, the huge void you feel every day. Thank you guys for all the support. I'll see you tomorrow. Stay safe. Peace.